When Michael Jordan couldn't sleep one night, he walked down a hotel hallway at almost 3 in the morning. That's when he heard something that stopped him in his tracks. The sound of someone crying. Around the corner, he found Rosa, a hotel cleaner, sitting on the floor next to her cleaning cart. Tears were streaming down her face as she held a crumpled piece of paper in her shaking hands. Michael could have kept walking. He could have pretended he didn't see her. After all, he was Michael Jordan, one of the most famous people in the world. What business did he have getting involved in a stranger's problems? But something made him stop. Maybe it was his mother's voice in his head, telling him to always see people as people, not just their jobs or positions. So Michael did something that would change 3 lives forever. And he walked over to Rosa and asked her a simple question. "What's wrong?" That piece of paper in Rosa's hand was a letter from a hospital. Her 17-year-old daughter, Catalina, was dying. She had only 3 weeks left to live. The surgery that could save her cost $340,000, money Rosa would never have, even though she worked 3 jobs and barely slept. Rosa had tried everything. She'd called every charity. She'd applied for every grant. She'd begged the insurance company. Everyone said no. And now she was sitting in a hotel hallway at 3 in the morning, preparing to watch her only daughter die. Michael sat down on the floor right next to her. And what he said next would start a chain of events that no one could have predicted. But here's what Rosa didn't know, what nobody knew. Michael had his own secret pain, his own reasons for being awake at 3 in the morning, unable to sleep, feeling like his success meant nothing. And Catalina? She had a secret too. Something she heard during her surgery that she never told her mother. Something about how much time she really had left, even if the surgery worked. Stay with us through this whole story, because what happens next will show you that miracles aren't just about money or medicine. Sometimes the biggest miracle is what happens when one person chooses to see another person's pain and do something about it. This is the story of a hotel cleaner, a basketball legend, and a dying girl, and how one moment of kindness created something that would save not just one life, but hundreds. Michael Jordan couldn't sleep. It was 2:47 in the morning, and the Grand Meridian Hotel in Chicago felt too quiet, too still. He'd left the charity gala 4 hours ago, shaken too many hands, smiled for too many cameras, and signed too many basketballs. Now, alone in his suite on the 23rd floor, sleep wouldn't come. He stood by the window, looking down at the city lights. Somewhere out there, people were living real lives, working, struggling, dreaming. And here he was, Michael Jordan, with everything a person could want, feeling hollow inside. His mother's voice whispered in his memory, "Baby, success means nothing if you can't see the people around you. See people, Michael, not positions, not fame, people." She'd been gone 3 years now, and he missed her every single day. Michael pulled on his jacket and left his suite. Maybe walking would help. Maybe moving through the empty hallways would quiet his restless mind. He nodded to the security guard by the elevators and headed down the corridor toward the executive suites. The carpet muffled his footsteps. The hallway stretched before him, elegant and empty. Wall sconces cast soft light on expensive paintings. Everything was perfect. Everything was lonely. Then he heard it. Crying. Quiet, muffled sobs coming from somewhere ahead. Michael slowed his pace, listening. The sound came from around the corner, near the service elevator. Someone was trying very hard not to be heard. Michael's first instinct was to turn around. This was private grief. He had no right to intrude. But his mother's voice came again. "See people, Michael. He rounded the corner. There, crumpled against a cleaning cart in a small alcove, sat a woman in a hotel uniform. Her shoulders shook as she cried into her hands. A mop leaned against the wall beside her. Bottles of cleaning solution lined the cart's shelves. She wore pale blue scrubs and white sneakers that had seen better days. She was trying so hard to cry quietly that it broke Michael's heart. "Ma'am?" Michael said softly. The woman's head snapped up. Her eyes went wide with shock. She scrambled to her feet, nearly knocking over the mop. Her hands flew to her face, wiping frantically at her tears. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry," she said, her words thick with an accent. Spanish, Michael thought. I didn't mean to. Please, I'll get back to work. Right now. I'm sorry you had to see." "Please," Michael said, holding up his hands. "Don't apologize." The woman stared at him. Recognition flickered in her red-rimmed eyes. She knew who he was. Of course she did. Everyone knew Michael Jordan's face. "Mr. Jordan," she whispered, I should go. I shouldn't be." "You shouldn't be crying alone in a hallway at 3 in the morning," Michael said gently. He took a step closer. "But since you are, maybe I can help." The woman shook her head quickly. Fresh tears spilled down her weathered cheeks. She looked to be in her early 50s, with gray threading through her black hair. Her hands were work rough, the nails short and clean. She clutched something in her right hand, a piece of paper, crumpled from being held too tight. "No one can help," she whispered. "It's impossible. I'm sorry. I need to finish my work or I'll be fired. Please, Mr. Jordan, I can't lose this job." She reached for her mop, but her hands were shaking so badly she couldn't grasp it properly. The mop clattered to the floor. The woman made a small, desperate sound and bent to pick it up. Michael got there first. He picked up the mop and held it out to her. But he didn't let go when she took the handle. "My mother used to tell me something," Michael said quietly. "She said that tears mean something matters. They're not something to apologize for. They're proof that you're human and that you care about something bigger than yourself." The woman's face crumpled. She tried to hold it together, but she couldn't. A sob escaped her throat. "Please," Michael said, "let me help. Whatever it is, maybe there's something I can do." "You can't bring back the dead," the woman whispered. Michael felt his chest tighten. Is someone dying?" The woman looked at him with eyes full of such pain that Michael had to steady himself against the wall. She still held the crumpled paper in her hand. Slowly, as if it weighed 1,000 pounds, she held it out to him. Michael took it carefully and smoothed out the wrinkles. It was a letter on hospital letterhead. Official. Cold. The kind of letter that changes everything. "Dear Ms. Delgado, we regret to inform you that your appeal for coverage of experimental cardiac surgery has been denied." Michael's eyes scanned down the page. Phrases jumped out at him. "Not medically necessary. Experimental procedure. No further appeals will be considered." He looked up at the woman, Ms. Delgado, and saw her watching him with hollow eyes. "Your daughter?" he asked softly. Ms. Delgado nodded. "Catalina. She's 17. Her voice broke. "She has 3 weeks left, maybe less. Unless—" She couldn't finish the sentence. She covered her mouth with her hand, trying to hold back another sob. Michael felt something crack open inside his chest. 3 weeks. This woman's daughter had 3 weeks to live, and she was working the night shift in a hotel, crying alone in a hallway because the world had told her there was no hope. He thought of his own mother, of the hospital where she'd died. of sitting in waiting rooms just like the ones Miss Delgado must know by heart. "Tell me about her," Michael said. "Tell me about Catalina." Ms. Delgado looked at him in surprise. "Why? You don't have to." "I know I don't have to," Michael said. He leaned against the wall and slid down until he was sitting on the carpet, and he patted the floor beside him. "But I want to. Please." For a long moment, Ms. Delgado just stared at him. Michael Jordan, sitting on the floor of a hotel hallway at 3 in the morning, asking her to sit with him. It didn't make sense. Nothing about this night made sense. But slowly, carefully, she sank down beside him. Her cleaning cart sat abandoned a few feet away. They sat together in the quiet hallway, two people who shouldn't have met, connected by the thin thread of a daughter's fading life. "She's beautiful," Ms. Delgado whispered. "Not just on the outside. Her heart, her soul. She's the best person I know." "Tell me more," Michael said softly. Ms. Delgado pulled out her phone with shaking hands. She opened her photos and scrolled until she found what she was looking for. She held the phone out to Michael. And the girl on the screen was thin and pale, lying in a hospital bed. But she was smiling, really smiling, as she held up a piece of paper. A drawing, Michael realized, a colorful picture of a butterfly. "She draws for the other kids," Ms. Delgado said, "the children in the hospital. Even now, when she can barely sit up, she makes them pictures. She tells them stories. She makes them laugh." Michael stared at the photo, at this teenage girl who was dying, but still trying to bring joy to others. "What's wrong with her heart?" he asked. Ms. Delgado took a shaky breath. "Dilated cardiomyopathy, with complications. Her heart is too weak. It can't pump enough blood. She's not eligible for a regular transplant because of the complications. But there's a doctor, Dr. Helena Winters at Johns Hopkins, who does a special surgery, an experimental procedure. And it's worked before. It could save her life." "But the insurance won't cover it," Michael said, looking at the denial letter still in his hand. "This is the third denial," Ms. Delgado whispered. "The surgery costs $340,000. I've been working 3 jobs for 2 years. I've saved $4,200. Her voice broke. "It's not even close to enough. The hospital told me. They said I should make her comfortable, that I should prepare to say goodbye." Michael felt rage building in his chest. Not at Ms. Delgado, not even at the insurance company, at a world where money decided who lived and who died, where a woman worked herself to exhaustion and still couldn't save her daughter, where a 17-year-old girl drew pictures for sick children while her own heart failed. "I can't accept it," Ms. Delgado said. "I can't just let her die, but I don't know what else to do. I've begged everyone. I've applied for every grant, every charity, every program. They all say the same thing. There's no money for experimental treatments. They say I should have better insurance. They say I should have planned better." Tears streamed down her face. "How do you plan for your child's heart to stop working? How do you plan for the impossible?" Michael looked at the photo on the phone again, at Catalina's brave smile, at the butterfly drawing meant to comfort another child. He thought of his mother, of the times she'd told him that wealth meant nothing if you didn't use it to help people, of the times she'd made him see the janitors and cafeteria workers and everyone else the world taught successful people to ignore. "See people, Michael," she'd said. "See them." He was seeing Ms. Delgado now, really seeing her, the exhaustion carved into her face, the calluses on her hands from years of hard work. the love that burned so fierce in her eyes it hurt to witness. This was a mother who would die for her child, who was killing herself trying to save a life the world had decided wasn't worth saving. Michael noticed the paper in Ms. Delgado's hand, the denial letter, and something in him shifted, made a decision, became certain. "Ms. Delgado," he said quietly, "what's your first name?" She blinked in surprise. "Rosa. My name is Rosa." "Rosa," Michael repeated. He said it gently, like a promise. "I need to ask you something, and I need you to answer honestly." Rosa nodded, confused but attentive. "If Catalina had time," Michael said slowly, "if the surgery happened and she lived, what would you want to do with her? What would you want her to experience?" Rosa's face crumpled again. I don't understand. Why does it matter? She doesn't have time. The surgery. Just answer the question," Michael said. "Please. If you could give her anything, what would it be?" Rosa was quiet for a long moment. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. "She wants to see a Bulls game," Rosa said. "Just once, at the United Center. It was her father's dream, my husband, Eduardo. He died 7 years ago in a construction accident. He loved the Bulls. He loved you, Mr. Jordan. He used to tell Catalina stories about you before bed, about never giving up, about having heart." Rosa's voice broke completely now. He promised her that one day when she was older, he'd take her to a game. It was going to be special, father and daughter. But then he died, and I couldn't afford tickets. And now, she sobbed, now she's dying, and she'll never get to go. She'll never get to feel close to her father that way. It's just one more thing I've failed to give her. Michael felt tears burning in his own eyes. He thought of his mother again, of promises and love, and the things that mattered more than championships. "Rosa," he said softly, "look at me." She turned her tear-stained face toward him. "Your daughter is going to get that surgery," Michael said. "I'm going to make sure of it." Rosa stared at him like he'd spoken a foreign language. "What? No, I can't. That's too much. I could never accept." "This isn't about accepting," Michael interrupted gently. "This is about what's right. This is about a 17-year-old girl who deserves to live, who deserves to become the nurse she dreams of being, who deserves to see her father's favorite team play basketball." "But the money," Rosa started. "I have money," Michael said simply. "More money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. But I can't buy back time with my mother. I can't undo the mistakes I've made. What I can do is help you save your daughter. What I can do is make sure Eduardo's promise gets kept." Rosa was shaking her head, tears flowing freely now. "Why? Why would you do this? You don't even know us." Michael reached out and gently took her work-roughened hand in his. "Because my mother taught me to see people. Because you're sitting here crying at 3 in the morning. And I heard you, and I can help. Because sometimes life gives us the chance to be more than who we are, to matter in ways that have nothing to do with fame or success." He squeezed her hand gently. "Let me help, Rosa. Please. Let me do this one thing that actually matters." Rosa couldn't speak. She just stared at him, this impossibly famous man sitting on a hotel floor, holding her hand, offering her a miracle she'd stopped believing in. But then Michael said something that made her eyes widen with confusion and a tiny flicker of fear. "There's something I need from you, though," Michael said quietly. "Something only you can give me. And I need you to say yes." Rosa's breath caught. Her mind raced. What could someone like Michael Jordan possibly need from someone like her? What price came with this miracle? She pulled her hand back slowly, her expression suddenly wary. "What? What do you need?" she whispered. Don Michael looked at her with eyes that held more sadness and longing than she'd expected. When he spoke, his voice was almost as broken as hers. "I need you to let me meet her. Not as Michael Jordan, the celebrity. Not for cameras or publicity. Just as Michael. A friend who wants to help. Someone who understands what it means to lose someone you love." He paused, and his next words carried the weight of years of loneliness. "I need you to let me matter as a person, Rosa. Not as a legend. Can you give me that?" Rosa stared at him, seeing for the first time the man behind the famous face. The lonely man who couldn't sleep. The son who missed his mother. The person who needed to help just as much as she needed to be helped. Slowly, she nodded. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, you can meet her." Michael closed his eyes in relief. "Thank you," he breathed. They sat there together on the hotel floor for another moment, two strangers who'd become something more. Then Michael stood and helped Rosa to her feet. "Give me your phone number," he said. "I'll call you tomorrow. We'll arrange everything. The surgery, the transport, all of it. Dr. Winters will perform the operation, and Catalina will have every chance to survive." Rosa's hands shook as she wrote her number on a piece of paper from her cart. Michael took it carefully and put it in his pocket like it was made of gold. "Mr. Jordan," Rosa whispered, "I don't know how to thank you." "You don't have to," Michael said gently. "Just let me meet your daughter. That's thanks enough." He turned to leave, then stopped and looked back. "Rosa, one more thing. When I meet Catalina, don't tell her who I am at first. Let me just be Michael, okay? Just for a little while." Rosa nodded, confused but willing. "Okay." Michael smiled. A real smile, the first genuine one he'd felt in weeks. "Get some rest," he said. "Tomorrow, everything changes." He walked away down the hallway, and Rosa stood there by her cleaning cart, holding her phone like a lifeline. She looked at the denial letter lying on her cart, at the words that had destroyed her hope just minutes ago. Then she picked up the letter, folded it carefully, and put it in her pocket. It was 3:17 in the morning. In 3 weeks, her daughter might have been dead. But now there was hope. Impossible, miraculous hope, offered by a man who'd heard her crying and chose not to walk away. Rosa finished her shift in a daze. She cleaned rooms without seeing them. She pushed her cart through empty hallways, Michael Jordan's words echoing in her mind. "Your daughter is going to get that surgery. I'm going to make sure of it." When her shift ended at 7 in the morning, Rosa stood in the employee locker room and pulled out her phone with trembling hands. She looked at Michael Jordan's number written on hotel stationery. Part of her still believed it was a dream. That when she called, the number would be fake. That she'd wake up and find herself still sitting by her cart, crying alone, with no hope and no way forward. But she had to try. For Catalina, for Eduardo, for the daughter who deserved to live. Rosa took a deep breath and dialed the number. Michael Jordan answered on the first ring. "Rosa," he said, like he'd been waiting for her call. "Are you ready to save your daughter's life?" Rosa started crying again, but this time they were different tears. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I'm ready." "Good," Michael said gently. "Then let's get started." Rosa's hand trembled so badly she almost dropped the phone. She was standing in the employee locker room at the Grand Meridian Hotel, still wearing her cleaning uniform, tears streaming down her face as Michael Jordan's voice came through the speaker. "I need you to do something for me right now," Michael said, his voice calm and steady. "I need you to go home, get some rest, and spend time with Catalina. Don't go to your other jobs today. Just be with your daughter. Can you do that? But I have to work, Rosa protested automatically. I have a shift at the restaurant at 11. And then I clean offices at... Not today, Michael interrupted gently. Today you rest. Today you tell Catalina that things are going to be okay. I'll handle everything else. Rosa wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. Mr. Jordan, I don't understand. How does this even work? I'm going to give you to my assistant, Marcus, Michael said. He's going to ask you some questions about Catalina's doctors, her medical records, everything we need to arrange the surgery. Then I'm going to call Dr. Helena Winters myself. By tonight, we'll have a plan. Do you trust me? Did she trust him? Rosa had known this man for less than an hour, but something in his voice, in the way he'd sat on the floor beside her and held her hand, told her that his promise was real. Yes, she whispered. I trust you. Good. Hold on. There was a brief pause, and then another voice came on the line. Ms. Delgado, my name is Marcus Chen. I work with Michael. I'm going to help coordinate everything for Catalina's surgery. First, I need the name of her current physician. Rosa answered questions in a daze. She gave Marcus the names of Catalina's doctors, the hospital where she was currently staying, her medical record numbers, insurance information, though that hardly mattered now, and every detail she could remember about her daughter's condition. Marcus was patient and kind. He never made her feel stupid for not knowing medical terms. He just listened and took notes, occasionally asking gentle follow-up questions. Perfect, Marcus said after 20 minutes. I have everything I need. Michael will be in touch soon. In the meantime, go be with your daughter. And Ms. Delgado? Catalina is going to be okay. We're going to make sure of it. The call ended. Rosa stood in the locker room, staring at her phone, trying to process what had just happened. 45 minutes ago, she'd been crying in a hallway, holding a denial letter, preparing to watch her daughter die. Now, there was hope. Rosa changed out of her uniform with shaking hands. She caught her reflection in the mirror and barely recognized herself. Her eyes were swollen from crying. Her face was haggard with exhaustion. But there was something new there, too. A tiny spark of light that hadn't existed before. She drove to the hospital where Catalina was staying. It was a 20-minute drive through morning traffic, and Rosa spent every minute praying. Praying that this wasn't a cruel dream. Praying that Michael Jordan was really going to help. Praying that her daughter would live to see 18. When she arrived at Catalina's room on the cardiac unit, her daughter was awake, propped up on pillows, drawing in a sketchbook. She looked so small in the hospital bed, so fragile. Her dark hair was pulled back in a messy bun, and there were dark circles under her eyes that never seemed to go away anymore. But when Catalina saw her mother, her whole face lit up. Mama, you're here early. Did they let you off your shift? Rosa forced a smile and crossed the room to kiss her daughter's forehead. I decided to take the morning off. I wanted to spend time with you. Catalina's smile faded slightly. Mama, you can't afford to miss work. I'm fine. You should. I wanted to be here, Rosa said firmly. So she sat in the chair beside the bed and took Catalina's thin hand in hers. Show me what you're drawing. Catalina held up the sketchbook. It was a picture of a garden, full of flowers and butterflies. In the center stood a little girl with a big smile, releasing a handful of balloons into a bright blue sky. It's for Emma, Catalina explained. The little girl 2 rooms down. She's only 6, and she's scared of her surgery tomorrow. I thought if I drew her something happy, it might help her feel braver. Rosa's heart clenched. Here was her daughter, dying, thinking about a 6-year-old's fear instead of her own. "It's beautiful, mija. You have such a good heart." "I learned from you," Catalina said softly. She studied her mother's face. "Mama, have you been crying? What's wrong?" Rosa had never been good at lying to her daughter, and Catalina could always see right through her. But how could she explain what had happened? How could she tell her about Michael Jordan without getting her hopes up, in case something went wrong? "I met someone last night," Rosa said carefully. "Someone who wants to help us." Catalina's expression became wary. Over the past 2 years, they'd met many people who wanted to help. Social workers who gave them pamphlets, charity representatives who said they'd see what they could do, well-meaning nurses who had no real power to change anything. "Help how?" Catalina asked quietly. Rosa squeezed her daughter's hand. "I don't want to say too much yet. I don't want to promise something that might not happen. But, mija, there might be a way for you to get the surgery. The one with Dr. Winters." Catalina's eyes went wide. "What? How?" "Mama, that costs—" "I know how much it costs," Rosa said. "But this person, he has the money, and he wants to help. He's arranging everything." Catalina stared at her mother, and Rosa watched about a dozen emotions flash across her daughter's face. Hope, disbelief, fear, more hope. Then something that looked almost like grief. "Mama," Catalina whispered, "what did you have to promise him?" The question hit Rosa like a punch to the stomach. She realized that her 17-year-old daughter thought she'd had to sell something, her dignity, her body, something shameful, to get this help. "No, baby, no," Rosa said quickly, gripping both of Catalina's hands now. "Nothing like that. He's a good man. He just wants to help because he can, and because his mother taught him to see people who need help." "People don't just give away $340,000, Catalina said, and she sounded so old, so tired. "There's always a cost." "The only thing he asked," Rosa said slowly, "is that he gets to meet you, not for publicity or cameras, just to meet you, as a person. Is that okay?" Catalina searched her mother's face for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. "If it means you don't have to work yourself to death anymore, if it means I get to live, then yes, he can meet me. But Mama, who is this person? How did you even meet someone who has that kind of money?" "He was at the hotel," Rosa said. I was upset, and he found me, and he decided to help." Before Catalina could ask more questions, Rosa's phone buzzed. She pulled it out and saw a text from an unknown number. "This is Marcus. Dr. Winters has agreed to see Catalina. Can you bring her to Johns Hopkins in Baltimore tomorrow? We'll arrange transport and accommodation." Rosa's hands started shaking again. Tomorrow. It was happening tomorrow. She showed the text to Catalina, whose eyes filled with tears. "Tomorrow?" Catalina whispered. "This is real? This is actually happening?" "It's real," Rosa said, though she could barely believe it herself. Catalina started crying, and Rosa held her, both of them trembling with an emotion too big to name. For 2 years, they'd been living in the shadow of death, watching the calendar pages turn, counting down to the inevitable. And now, suddenly, impossibly, there was a future again. "I'm scared," Catalina admitted into her mother's shoulder. "Me too," Rosa whispered back. "But we're going to be brave together. Okay?" They spent the rest of the morning holding each other and talking about small things: the weather, Catalina's drawings, a funny show they'd watched together last week. Neither of them mentioned the surgery, or the mysterious benefactor, or the fact that everything was about to change. At noon, a nurse came in with Catalina's lunch, bland hospital food that Catalina picked at without enthusiasm. Rosa was helping her daughter eat pudding when her phone rang. It was Michael Jordan. Rosa stepped into the hallway to take the call, her heart pounding. "Rosa," Michael said, "everything's arranged. Dr. Winters reviewed Catalina's medical records this morning. She says the surgery is definitely possible, and she wants to do it as soon as possible. The sooner the better, given Catalina's condition." "How soon?" Rosa asked. "See, if you can get to Baltimore tomorrow, she'll operate the day after. Is that too fast?" "Too fast?" It was a miracle. "No," Rosa said. That's perfect." "Good. Marcus is arranging a private medical transport for tomorrow morning at 9. It'll bring you and Catalina to Johns Hopkins. We've also reserved a room for you at a hotel near the hospital, so you can stay close during her recovery." Rosa felt dizzy. This was too much, too generous. "Mr. Jordan, I can't possibly repay—" "I don't want repayment," Michael said, and there was something almost fierce in his voice. "I want your daughter to live. That's all. That's the only payment I need." Rosa was crying again. She seemed to cry constantly now, but these tears felt different, cleaner somehow. "There's one more thing," Michael said, his voice softening. "I'd like to come see Catalina this evening before you leave for Baltimore, just for a little while, just to meet her. Is that okay?" "Yes," Rosa said. "Of course, but should I tell her who you are?" Michael was quiet for a moment. "You can tell her I'm the person who's helping. But please, don't make it a big deal. I don't want her to feel pressured or overwhelmed. I just want to talk to her, person to person." "What time?" Rosa asked. "Is 7 o'clock okay? After dinner?" "Perfect. Good. I'll see you then, Rosa. And Rosa, everything's going to be okay. I promise." The call ended. Rosa stood in the hospital hallway, phone clutched to her chest, trying to steady her breathing. 7 o'clock. In 7 hours, Michael Jordan was going to walk into her daughter's hospital room. She went back inside. Catalina was lying back against her pillows, looking exhausted just from the effort of eating a few bites. "Was that him?" Catalina asked. "The person who's helping?" Rosa nodded. "He wants to come meet you tonight, at 7. Is that okay?" Catalina's eyes widened. "Tonight? But I look terrible. I'm wearing a hospital gown, and I haven't washed my hair in 3 days, and—" "You look beautiful," Rosa said firmly. "And he doesn't care about any of that. He just wants to meet you." "Who is he, Mama? You still haven't told me his name." Rosa hesitated. Then she decided Catalina deserved to know. "His name is Michael Jordan." For a long moment, Catalina just stared at her mother. Then she laughed, a short, disbelieving sound. "Michael Jordan, the basketball player. That's who's paying for my surgery." "Yes." "Mama, that's impossible." "I know it sounds impossible," Rosa said, "but it's true. I met him at the hotel last night, and he decided to help. He lost his mother a few years ago, and I think he sees her in us somehow." Catalina's laughter faded. She looked down at her hands, at the IV line running into her arm. "Why would someone like that care about someone like me?" "Because you matter," Rosa said fiercely. "Because your life has value. Because you're a good person who deserves to live." Catalina was quiet for a long time. Then she looked up at her mother with eyes full of something Rosa couldn't quite read. "Mama, if the surgery works, if I live, you have to promise me something. Anything," Rosa said. Promise me you'll stop punishing yourself. Stop working 3 jobs. Stop refusing to have any kind of life because you think you have to sacrifice everything for me. Promise me that if I survive, you'll actually live too. Rosa felt like she'd been slapped. Mija, I'm fine. You're not fine, Catalina interrupted, and her voice was stronger than it had been in weeks. You never sleep. You never smile. You never do anything for yourself. If I live, I don't want it to be so you can spend the rest of your life in debt or working yourself to death. I want us both to have real lives. Promise me. Rosa couldn't speak. She just nodded, tears streaming down her face. Say it, Catalina insisted. Promise me. I promise, Rosa whispered. Catalina relaxed back against her pillows, satisfied. Good. Now, help me figure out what to wear when I meet Michael Jordan. Despite everything, Rosa laughed. You're in a hospital, Mija. You don't have many options. Then help me look as good as I can in a hospital gown, Catalina said with a weak smile. They spent the afternoon together, mother and daughter, talking and laughing more than they had in months. Catalina napped around 3, and Rosa sat beside her bed, watching her daughter sleep, memorizing her face, just in case this miracle turned out to be temporary. At 6:30, Rosa helped Catalina wash her face and brush her hair. They made her as comfortable as possible, propped up on clean pillows, with a blanket covering the worst of the medical equipment. At precisely 7 o'clock, there was a soft knock on the door. Rosa's heart jumped into her throat. She looked at Catalina, who looked back at her with wide, nervous eyes. Come in, Rosa called. The door opened. Sir Michael Jordan walked in, and Rosa saw him differently this time. Not as a celebrity or a legend, but as the man who'd sat on the floor with her at 3 in the morning. He was wearing jeans and a simple black sweater, with a baseball cap pulled low. He carried a vase of flowers in one hand and a gift bag in the other. Hi, he said simply, his famous voice suddenly sounding shy. I'm Michael. Catalina stared at him, even thin and pale and sick. She was beautiful. Rosa could see that Michael noticed it too. More than that, Rosa could see him noticing Catalina's spirit, shining through despite her failing body. I know who you are, Catalina said softly. You're Michael Jordan. Michael smiled and set the flowers on the bedside table. Well, yes, but right now, I'm just Michael. Oh, a friend of your mom's who wanted to meet the brave young woman I've heard so much about. He pulled up a chair and sat down, completely at ease. Rosa stood by the window, giving them space, but staying close. Your mom told me you draw, Michael said. Can I see? Catalina hesitated, then reached for her sketchbook on the rolling table. She handed it to Michael, who opened it carefully and began looking through the pages. Rosa watched his face as he looked at Catalina's drawings. She saw genuine appreciation there, not politeness. He studied each picture, the butterflies, the gardens, the smiling children, the bright, hopeful scenes. These are remarkable, Michael said quietly. You have real talent. But more than that, you have heart. I can see it in every drawing. You make these for the other kids here? Catalina nodded. It's not much, but it makes them happy. And if I can make someone smile, even for a minute, then the day isn't wasted. Michael looked up at her, and Rosa saw tears in his eyes. You know what's funny? He said. People think that winning championships is the greatest thing you can do. But making someone smile when they're suffering? That's actually greatness. That's real power. You won 6 championships, Catalina pointed out. I did, Michael agreed. But you know what I remember more than any of those wins? I remember the letter I got from a kid whose dad died, and the kid said that watching me play basketball helped him get through the grief. That letter mattered more than any trophy. He leaned forward slightly. Your mom told me about your dad, about Eduardo. I'm sorry you lost him. Catalina's eyes filled with tears. Oh, he loved watching you play. He used to tell me stories about you before bed. About never giving up, even when things got hard. About having heart. He sounds like he was a good man, Michael said gently. He was, Catalina whispered. The best. He'd be proud of you, Michael said, fighting this hard, still finding ways to help other people. That takes the kind of heart champions are made of. Catalina wiped her eyes. Mr. Jordan? Michael, he corrected gently. Michael, Catalina said, why are you really doing this? I mean, I'm grateful. More grateful than I can ever say. But people like you don't just pay for random people's surgeries. There has to be a reason. Michael was quiet for a long moment, and Rosa held her breath, wondering what he would say. Finally, Michael spoke, his voice low and honest. 3 years ago, my mother died. She got sick, and there were complications with insurance, delays in treatment, bureaucracy that got in the way of care. By the time everything was sorted out, it was too late. I had all the money in the world, but I couldn't save her. He looked at Catalina with raw pain in his eyes. I can't bring my mother back, but I can help your mother keep you. And maybe that's how I honor what my mom taught me. She always said to see people, not positions, not fame or success or status, just people, their dignity, their worth. Michael reached out and gently took Catalina's hand. You matter, Catalina. Your life has value, and if I can help preserve that life, then maybe some of my success actually means something. Catalina was crying openly now. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for fighting to stay, Michael said. The world needs more people like you. He reached for the gift bag and handed it to Catalina. I brought you something. Open it. With shaking hands, Catalina opened the bag. Inside was a jersey, a Chicago Bulls jersey, number 23. But it wasn't a replica. Rosa could tell immediately that this was real, game-worn, special. This is from the 1998 finals, Michael said quietly. The last championship. I've kept it all these years, but I think it belongs with you now. Your dad would have wanted you to have it. Catalina pulled the jersey out and held it to her chest, sobbing. Rosa came to the bedside and put her arms around her daughter. Michael stood. I should let you rest. You've got a big day tomorrow. The trip to Baltimore, meeting Dr. Winters. I'm preparing for surgery, but I'll be checking in. And Catalina? She looked up at him through her tears. You're going to make it through this, Michael said with absolute certainty. You're going to survive, and you're going to become an amazing nurse, and you're going to help so many people. I believe that with everything in me. How can you be so sure? Catalina whispered. Michael smiled. Because champions recognize champions. And you, Catalina Delgado, are a champion. He turned to leave, then paused at the door. Oh, one more thing. After you recover, after you're strong again, you're coming to a Bulls game. Front row. That's a promise your dad made you, and we're going to keep it. Catalina nodded, unable to speak. Michael gave them both one last smile, then left the room. Rosa and Catalina sat together in silence for a long time, holding each other, holding the jersey, holding on to hope. Finally, Catalina spoke, her voice barely a whisper. Mama, What if the surgery doesn't work? What if I don't make it? Rosa pulled back to look her daughter in the eyes. Then we'll have tried, we'll have fought, and we'll have known that people like Michael Jordan exist in the world. People who care, who help, who see us as human beings worth saving. But Misha, I believe you're going to make it. I believe we're going to get through this together. Catalina nodded and leaned against her mother's shoulder. She clutched Michael's jersey like a lifeline, breathing in the scent of dreams and possibilities. Neither of them slept much that night. They talked about the surgery, about Baltimore, about the future that suddenly seemed possible again. And in the quiet hours before dawn, Catalina whispered one more thing to her mother. "Mama, promise me something else." "What, Mija?" "Promise me that no matter what happens tomorrow, no matter how the surgery goes, you'll remember that we're not alone anymore, that there are people who care. Promise me you won't go back to believing the world is cruel and cold." Rosa thought about Michael Jordan sitting on a hotel floor at 3 in the morning, holding her hand, offering hope when there was none. "I promise," she whispered. At 9 o'clock the next morning, a private medical transport arrived at the hospital. The team was professional, kind, and efficient. They transferred Catalina carefully onto their stretcher, made sure she was comfortable, and loaded her into the ambulance with Rosa beside her. As they pulled away from the hospital, Rosa looked out the window at the Chicago skyline. Somewhere in this city, Michael Jordan was probably waking up, drinking coffee, going about his day. But he'd forever changed theirs. The ambulance headed toward the highway, toward Baltimore, toward Dr. Winters and Johns Hopkins, and a surgery that could save or end Catalina's life. Rosa held her daughter's hand and prayed. And in her pocket, she carried the crumpled denial letter, not as a symbol of defeat anymore, but as a reminder of what miracles looked like when they arrived at 3 in the morning in a hotel hallway, wearing jeans and a kind smile. The impossible dream was about to become real. The medical transport hummed along the highway, carrying Catalina and Rosa toward Baltimore. Through the tinted windows, Rosa watched the landscape change from city to suburbs to countryside. Catalina dozed fitfully beside her, the oxygen mask making soft hissing sounds with each breath. Rosa hadn't slept. How could she? In less than 24 hours, her daughter would be on an operating table, her chest cut open, her failing heart exposed to the skilled hands of Dr. Helena Winters. Everything depended on the next few days. Life or death, future or ending. Her phone buzzed, a text from Michael. "How's the drive going?" Rosa typed back with one hand, the other still holding Catalina's. "Good. She's resting. Thank you for everything." The response came immediately. "I'll be there tomorrow. Want to be nearby for the surgery?" Rosa's eyes filled with tears. He was coming to Baltimore. This impossibly famous, impossibly busy man was rearranging his life to be there for people he'd just met. "You don't have to do that," Rosa typed. I know. I want to." Rosa set down her phone and looked at her daughter. Catalina's face was peaceful in sleep, younger somehow without the weight of consciousness. Rosa thought about Eduardo, about how he used to watch their daughter sleep when she was a baby, his face soft with wonder. "She's going to make it," Rosa whispered to the memory of her husband. "Our girl is going to live." The transport pulled into Johns Hopkins Medical Center just after 2 in the afternoon. The facility was enormous, a sprawling complex of buildings that seemed to stretch forever. Rosa felt suddenly small and overwhelmed, but the medical team knew exactly where to go. They wheeled Catalina through automatic doors, down pristine hallways, past nurses and doctors and families dealing with their own crises. Rosa hurried to keep up, clutching her purse and the small overnight bag she'd packed in a panic. They took Catalina to a room on the cardiac floor, a private room, Rosa noticed with surprise, spacious and bright, with a window overlooking the city. This wasn't the kind of room Rosa could have afforded under normal circumstances. A nurse helped settle Catalina into bed, while Rosa stood awkwardly to the side, feeling useless. "Dr. Winters will be by to see you in about an hour," the nurse said kindly. She was young, probably in her 30s, with kind eyes and efficient movements. "In the meantime, try to rest. I know it's hard, but you'll need your strength for tomorrow." When the nurse left, Rosa pulled a chair close to Catalina's bed and sat down heavily. Her body ached from exhaustion and stress. Her mind wouldn't stop racing. Catalina stirred and opened her eyes. "We're here?" "We're here, mija. Johns Hopkins. The surgery is tomorrow morning." Catalina nodded slowly, taking in the room. "It's nice. Better than our hospital at home." "Michael arranged everything," Rosa said quietly. "I still can't believe this is real," Catalina whispered. "I keep thinking I'm going to wake up and find out it was just a dream. A beautiful, impossible dream." Rosa squeezed her daughter's hand. "It's real. I promise you. It's real." They sat in silence for a while, listening to the beeps and hums of medical equipment. Then Catalina spoke, her voice small and frightened. "Mama, I'm scared." "I know, baby. Me too. What if I don't wake up? What if something goes wrong during the surgery?" Rosa wanted to lie, to promise everything would be perfect. But she'd never lied to her daughter before, and she wouldn't start now. "Then I will be there when you go to sleep," Rosa said softly. "And I will hold your hand until the very last second. And you will know that you are loved more than anything in this world." "But Catalina, I don't think that's going to happen. I think you're going to wake up with a strong, healthy heart. I think you're going to live a long, beautiful life." Catalina's eyes filled with tears. "I want to believe that." "Then believe it," Rosa said fiercely. "Believe it with everything you have." At 3 o'clock, there was a knock on the door. A woman in her 50s entered, wearing scrubs and a white coat. She had silver hair pulled back in a bun and sharp, intelligent eyes that seemed to see everything. "Catalina? Rosa? I'm Dr. Helena Winters." Rosa stood quickly, suddenly nervous. This was the surgeon who would hold her daughter's life in her hands tomorrow. The woman who could save or lose everything. Dr. Winters shook both their hands firmly, then pulled up a chair beside Catalina's bed. She didn't waste time with small talk. "I've reviewed all your medical records, Catalina. I've studied your imaging, your blood work, your cardiac function tests. I'm not going to lie to you. This is a complex surgery. Your heart has deteriorated significantly, and there are complications that make this more challenging than a standard procedure." Catalina nodded, her face pale but brave. "However," Dr. Winters continued, "I believe we can do this. I've performed this operation 17 times. 14 of those patients are alive and healthy today. And the procedure involves rebuilding the damaged muscle in your left ventricle using a synthetic scaffold that your body will eventually integrate with your own tissue. It's experimental, yes, but it works." "What are my chances?" Catalina asked quietly. Dr. Winters met her gaze directly. "If we do nothing, you have weeks at most. With the surgery, I'd put your survival rate at about 70%. Those are good odds, Catalina. Better than good, given where you're starting from." 70%. Rosa's mind latched onto the number. 70% chance of life, 30% chance of death. "What happens during the 30%? Catalina asked. and Rosa wanted to scream at her daughter to stop asking, to stop thinking about death. But Dr. Winters answered calmly. One, the most critical period is during the surgery itself, and the first 72 hours after. If we get through that window, your chances improve dramatically. The risks are bleeding, infection, rejection of the synthetic material, or your heart simply being too weak to restart after we repair it. Catalina absorbed this information with a maturity that broke Rosa's heart. When do we start? Tomorrow morning at 7. The surgery will take approximately 12 to 14 hours. You'll be under anesthesia the entire time, of course. When you wake up, you'll be in the ICU with tubes and monitors everywhere. It won't be comfortable, but it means you're alive and fighting. Dr. Winters stood and placed a hand on Catalina's shoulder. Get some rest tonight. Don't eat or drink anything after midnight. A nurse will come prep you around 5 in the morning. Do you have any questions? Catalina shook her head. She looked so small in the hospital bed, so vulnerable. After Dr. Winters left, Rosa tried to keep Catalina's spirits up. They watched television together, talked about silly things, avoided discussing the surgery looming over them like a storm cloud. At 6 o'clock, dinner arrived, bland hospital food that neither of them could eat. Rosa pushed food around her plate, while Catalina pretended to be interested in a reality show on TV. At 7:30, there was another knock on the door. Michael Jordan walked in, and Rosa felt her shoulders drop with relief. She hadn't realized how much she'd been hoping he would come. "Hi," Michael said, smiling at both of them. He carried a small bag and wore the same casual clothes as before. Jeans, on a sweater, a baseball cap, trying to be just Michael, not the legend. "You came," Catalina said, her voice brightening. "Of course I came. Couldn't let you face tomorrow without a proper pep talk." Michael pulled up a chair and sat down. "How are you feeling?" "Terrified," Catalina admitted. "Good. That means you understand what's at stake. Fear isn't weakness, Catalina. It's your body's way of preparing you to fight." He reached into his bag and pulled out a small notebook with a leather cover. "I brought you something. It was my mother's. She used to write in it every day. Thoughts, prayers, memories, anything that mattered to her." Michael handed the notebook to Catalina, who took it reverently. "After she died, I read through it," Michael continued. "And I found this entry she wrote when I was going through a really hard time in my career. I was injured, depressed, thinking about quitting. She wrote, 'My son thinks his value comes from what he does. Someday he'll learn that his value comes from who he is. Success is temporary. Character is forever.'" Michael's voice was thick with emotion. "I want you to have this notebook, Catalina. After you recover, I want you to write in it. Write about your journey, about what you learn, about who you become. And someday, when you're old and you've helped thousands of people as a nurse, you can give it to someone who needs to read your story." Catalina clutched the notebook to her chest, tears streaming down her face. "I don't know what to say." "Don't say anything. Just promise me you'll fight tomorrow. A fight with everything you have." "I promise," Catalina whispered. They talked for another hour. Michael told stories about his mother, about growing up, about the failures that taught him more than the successes. He made Catalina laugh with tales of missed shots and embarrassing moments. He treated her not like a dying girl to be pitied, but like a person worth knowing. Rosa watched them talk and felt her heart expand with gratitude. This man, this legend, was giving her daughter something more precious than money. He was giving her dignity, hope, the belief that her life mattered. At 9 o'clock, Michael stood to leave. "You need to rest. Big day tomorrow." He hugged Catalina gently, careful of her IV lines. "You've got this, champion. I'll be here tomorrow, waiting for you to wake up." Michael hugged Rosa too, and whispered in her ear, "She's going to make it. I feel it in my bones." Rosa nodded against his shoulder, unable to speak. After Michael left, Rosa helped Catalina wash up and get ready for bed. They moved slowly, savoring these last moments before everything changed. At midnight, a nurse came to take Catalina's last vitals before the surgery. Blood pressure, temperature, oxygen levels. All the measurements that would determine if she was strong enough to survive what was coming. "Everything looks good," the nurse said cheerfully. "Try to sleep. Tomorrow's going to be a long day, but you're in the best hands possible." After the nurse left, Rosa turned off most of the lights, leaving only a soft glow from the lamp by the bed. She settled into the recliner chair beside Catalina, prepared to spend the night keeping watch. Mama?" Catalina's voice came soft through the darkness. "Yes, mija? Come lie with me, like you used to when I was little and had nightmares." Rosa's throat tightened. She got up and carefully climbed into the narrow hospital bed beside her daughter, mindful of all the wires and tubes. She wrapped her arms around Catalina and held her close. "I love you," Rosa whispered. "More than anything in this universe. You are my heart, Catalina. My whole heart. I love you too, Mama." They lay together in the darkness, listening to each other breathe. Rosa memorized the weight of her daughter in her arms, the smell of her hair, the rhythm of her heartbeat, weak but still fighting. "Mama?" Catalina said again, her voice barely audible. "If something goes wrong tomorrow?" "Nothing is going to go wrong." "But if it does," Catalina insisted quietly, "I need you to promise me something. Something important." Rosa's whole body tensed. "What?" Catalina was silent for a long moment, gathering her courage. When she finally spoke, her words changed everything. "Promise me that you'll help Michael the way he's helping us." Rosa pulled back slightly, confused. "What do you mean? How could I possibly help someone like him?" "I heard him talking to you in the hallway earlier, when he thought I was asleep," Catalina said. "He told you he's been lonely, that he feels lost sometimes, that success doesn't mean what he thought it would." Rosa hadn't realized Catalina had been listening. "Mama, Michael Jordan has everything, money, fame, respect, but he doesn't have what we have. He doesn't have someone who sees him as just Michael, someone who cares about the person, and not the legend." Catalina shifted in the bed, turning to look at her mother even in the darkness. "I don't think he helped us just because he's generous. I think he helped us because he needed to, because we gave him something he's been missing. Purpose, connection, the feeling that he matters as a human being, not just as a brand." Rosa felt tears sliding down her cheeks. Her dying daughter, facing surgery in less than 7 hours, was worried about Michael Jordan's loneliness. "What do you want me to do?" Rosa whispered. "Be his friend. Really his friend. Not someone who's grateful or in awe of him. Just someone who sees him and cares. Someone who asks how he's doing and actually means it. Someone who reminds him that he's worthy of love just for being himself, not for what he's accomplished." Catalina's voice grew more urgent. Promise me, Mama. Promise me that if I don't make it through tomorrow, you won't disappear from his life. Promise me you'll help him believe in people again, the way he's helping you believe." Rosa wanted to protest, to say that Catalina would make it, that this conversation was unnecessary. But she heard the desperation in her daughter's voice and understood that this promise was important, maybe the most important thing Catalina would ever ask of her. "I promise," Rosa whispered. "I promise I'll be his friend. I promise I'll see him as a person. I promise I won't let him be lonely if I can help it." Catalina relaxed against her mother's shoulder. "Good. That makes me feel better." "Why?" Rosa asked. "Why does this matter so much to you?" "Because, Mama, life isn't just about being saved. It's about saving each other. Michael thinks he's rescuing us, but the truth is, we're rescuing him too. That's what love does. It saves people in both directions." Rosa held her daughter tighter, overwhelmed by her wisdom. At 17, facing death, Catalina understood something about life that most people never learned. They lay together in silence for a while longer. Then Catalina spoke one more time, her voice drowsy with exhaustion and pre-surgery medication. "Mama, will you tell me a story about Papa? About when you first met him?" Rosa smiled through her tears and began to speak softly, telling the story Catalina had heard 100 times but never tired of. The story of a young woman from Guatemala who met a construction worker with kind eyes and calloused hands. The story of Eduardo. She talked until Catalina's breathing deepened and evened out, until her daughter finally slept. Rosa stayed awake all night, holding Catalina, praying to Eduardo and God, and anyone who might be listening. She prayed for skilled hands and strong hearts. She prayed for 70% to become 100. She prayed for her daughter to wake up. At 5 in the morning, nurses came to prep Catalina for surgery. They were gentle but efficient, inserting new IV lines, administering medications, asking the same questions over and over to verify identity and procedure. Catalina was groggy but calm. She held Rosa's hand and squeezed it every few minutes, a silent reassurance that she was still there, still fighting. At 6:30, Dr. Winters appeared in full surgical attire. "Ready?" she asked Catalina. "Ready," Catalina said, her voice steady. They began wheeling the bed toward the operating room. Rosa walked alongside, still holding her daughter's hand, not ready to let go. At the doors to the surgical suite, they had to stop. Rosa couldn't go any further. "I love you," Rosa said, bending to kiss Catalina's forehead. "I love you so much, mija. You are my brave, beautiful girl, and you are going to survive this. Do you hear me? You are going to survive." "I love you too, Mama," Catalina whispered. "Remember your promise. Both of them. The promise to live if Catalina survived. The promise to help Michael if she didn't." Rosa nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. The nurses began pushing the bed through the double doors. Catalina's hand slipped from Rosa's grasp. Rosa watched her daughter disappear into the operating room, the doors swinging shut between them. Rosa stood frozen in the hallway, staring at those closed doors. Behind them, surgeons were putting her daughter to sleep. Soon they would cut open her chest, stop her heart, try to repair the unrepairable. 14 hours, Dr. Winters had said. 14 hours of waiting. 14 hours of not knowing. Rosa walked on shaking legs to the surgical waiting room. It was a large space with uncomfortable chairs, outdated magazines, and a coffee machine that looked like it had been there since 1985. A few other families sat scattered around the room, all wearing the same expression of desperate hope. Rosa found a chair in the corner and sat down. She pulled out her phone and sent a text to Michael. She just went into surgery. The response came within seconds. "I'm on my way. Be there in 20 minutes. True to his word, Michael arrived 20 minutes later, and he found Rosa in the waiting room and sat down beside her without a word. He just reached over and took her hand, holding it firmly. They sat like that for hours, not talking much, just being present for each other. At noon, a surgical nurse came out to give an update. "Dr. Winters asked me to let you know that everything is progressing well. They've successfully accessed the heart and are beginning the repair. It's going to be several more hours, but so far, so good." Rosa nodded, too emotional to speak. Michael thanked the nurse for her. More hours passed. Michael got them both coffee and sandwiches from the cafeteria, though neither of them ate much. Other families came and went from the waiting room, their dramas playing out in whispers and tears. At 4 in the afternoon, another update. Still progressing. Dr. Winters is pleased with how Catalina's responding. At 7:30 in the evening, 12 and a half hours after the surgery began, Dr. Winters finally emerged from the operating room. She was still in her scrubs, her mask pulled down around her neck. She looked exhausted but not defeated. Rosa jumped to her feet, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might explode. Dr. Winters smiled, actually smiled. "She made it," Dr. Winters said. "The surgery was successful. Catalina's heart is beating on its own, and all her vitals are stable. She's not out of the woods yet. The next 72 hours are critical, but she survived the operation." Rosa's legs gave out. Michael caught her before she could fall, holding her up as she sobbed against his chest. "Can I see her?" Rosa managed to ask. "She's in recovery now. It will move her to the ICU in about an hour, and then you can see her. She'll be unconscious for at least another 12 hours, maybe longer. But yes, you can be with her." Dr. Winters put a hand on Rosa's shoulder. "She's a fighter, your daughter. Her heart didn't want to quit. Even when we were working on it, even when it was technically stopped, I could feel its will to keep going. She's going to make it, Rosa. I truly believe that." After Dr. Winters left, Rosa turned to Michael and saw tears streaming down his face, too. "Our girl did it," Michael said, using the word "our" without thinking. "She survived." Rosa hugged him fiercely, this man who had become family in just a few days. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for giving her this chance." "She gave herself this chance," Michael said. "She's the one who fought. We just made sure she had the opportunity." An hour later, a nurse came to bring Rosa to the ICU. Michael waited in the waiting room, giving Rosa privacy for this first reunion. Rosa followed the nurse through a maze of hallways to the intensive care unit. They stopped at a room with glass walls, and Rosa's breath caught in her throat. There was Catalina, surrounded by machines and monitors, tubes and wires everywhere. Her chest was bandaged, her face pale, her eyes closed, but her chest rose and fell with mechanical precision. She was breathing. She was alive. Rosa approached the bed slowly, afraid to touch anything, afraid to break the fragile miracle. "You can talk to her," the nurse said gently. "She can't respond, but she might be able to hear you on some level." Rosa pulled a chair close to the bed and took Catalina's hand carefully, avoiding the IV line. "You did it, mija," Rosa whispered. "You survived. You're going to be okay. Dr. Winters said your heart is beating on its own. You fought so hard and you won." Catalina didn't respond, but Rosa thought she saw her daughter's fingers twitch slightly. "I'm going to keep all my promises," Rosa continued. "I'm going to stop punishing myself. I'm going to actually live, not just survive. And I'm going to be there for Michael, the way you asked me to. I'm going to help him believe in people." Rosa sat with her daughter through the night, holding her hand, watching the monitors, praying that the numbers would stay stable. Every hour that passed was a victory. Every beat of Catalina's repaired heart was a miracle. At 3 in the morning, Rosa finally allowed herself to believe it was real. Her daughter was going to live. The impossible dream had become reality. And somewhere in that reality, a secret promise waited to be kept. A promise that would change not just Rosa's life, but Michael's too, in ways neither of them could yet imagine. Rosa dozed fitfully in the chair beside Catalina's ICU bed, jerking awake every time a monitor beeped or an alarm sounded. The 72-hour critical window had begun, and every second felt like holding her breath underwater. Dawn light filtered through the hospital windows, painting everything in shades of gray and gold. Rosa watched her daughter's chest rise and fall with the ventilator, counting each breath like prayer beads. At 7 in the morning, a nurse came to check Catalina's vitals. "Everything looks good," she said warmly. "Her numbers are stable. Dr. Winters will be by later this morning." Rosa nodded, exhausted beyond words. She'd been awake for nearly 48 hours straight, running on nothing but adrenaline and hope. Her phone buzzed. "Michael, how is she?" Rosa typed back, "Stable, still unconscious." "They say that's normal. Can I visit?" "Yes, please." 20 minutes later, Michael appeared in the doorway of the ICU room. He carried 2 cups of coffee and a bag that smelled like fresh pastries. "You need to eat," he said, handing Rosa a coffee and croissant. "You can't take care of her if you collapse." Rosa wanted to argue, but the coffee smelled too good. She took a grateful sip and felt warmth spread through her cold, tired body. Michael pulled up another chair and sat on the opposite side of Catalina's bed. He studied her face, still pale, still peaceful, in medicated sleep. "She looks like a warrior resting after battle," he said softly. Rosa smiled despite her exhaustion. "That's exactly what she is." They sat in companionable silence, drinking coffee, watching over Catalina together. Rosa found herself grateful for Michael's presence, not because he was famous or wealthy, but because he genuinely cared. Because he showed up. At 10 o'clock, Dr. Winters arrived with 2 other doctors. They examined Catalina thoroughly, checking her incision, studying her monitors, discussing her progress in medical terms Rosa couldn't follow. Finally, Dr. Winters turned to Rosa with a cautious smile. 24 hours post-op, and she's doing remarkably well. Her heart function is better than I dared hope. We're going to start reducing sedation later today. If all goes well, she should regain consciousness within 12 to 24 hours. Rosa felt tears spring to her eyes. She's really going to make it? "I never make promises in medicine," Dr. Winters said carefully. "But I'm optimistic. Very optimistic." After the doctors left, Rosa allowed herself to cry. Not tears of fear this time, but tears of exhausted relief. Michael moved to her side of the bed and put an arm around her shoulders, letting her sob against him. "It's okay," he murmured. "Let it out. You've been so strong." "I was so scared," Rosa admitted. "So terrified I'd lose her." "I know, but you didn't. She's here. She's fighting." They stayed like that for a long moment. A 2 people who'd become family through crisis and grace. Then Rosa pulled back and wiped her eyes. "You don't have to stay," she said. "You've already done so much. You must have a million other things to do." Michael shook his head. "There's nowhere else I need to be. Nothing more important than this." "But your life, your schedule—" "My life can wait," Michael said firmly. "This matters more." Rosa studied his face and saw something there she hadn't noticed before, a kind of hunger. Not for fame or attention, but for connection, for meaning. Catalina had been right. Michael needed this as much as they did. "Thank you for staying," Rosa said quietly. "Thank you for letting me," Michael replied. The hours crawled by. Nurses came and went, checking vitals, adjusting medications, making notes on charts. Rosa and Michael took turns sitting with Catalina, giving each other breaks to walk the halls or get food from the cafeteria. At 3 in the afternoon, as Rosa was dozing in her chair, Michael gently shook her awake. "Rosa," he whispered urgently. "Look." Rosa's eyes snapped open. She looked at Catalina and saw her daughter's fingers moving, just slightly, but definitely moving. Then Catalina's eyelids fluttered. "Get the nurse," Rosa said, her heart racing. Michael rushed out and returned moments later with 2 nurses. They crowded around the bed, checking monitors, speaking to Catalina in calm, encouraging voices. "Catalina, can you hear me? If you can hear me, squeeze my hand." Rosa held her breath. Then, slowly, Catalina's fingers tightened around the nurse's hand. "Good girl," the nurse said. "You're doing great. You're in the hospital. You had surgery, and it went very well. Don't try to talk. You have a breathing tube. We're going to remove it soon, okay?" Catalina's eyes opened fully, confused, frightened, disoriented. Her gaze darted around the room until it found Rosa. Then she calmed slightly. Rosa moved to the bedside, tears streaming down her face. "I'm here, mija. I'm right here. You did it. The surgery worked. You're going to be okay." Catalina's eyes filled with tears. She couldn't speak, couldn't move much, but Rosa saw relief and love in her daughter's expression. The nurses worked quickly to remove the breathing tube. It was uncomfortable. Rosa could see Catalina gagging and coughing, but within minutes, it was out. Catalina took her first independent breath in over 30 hours. Then another. Then another. "How does it feel?" "Doctor," T. Winters asked, appearing in the doorway as if summoned by medical intuition. "It hurts," Catalina rasped, her voice raw and weak. "Everything hurts." "That's normal," Dr. Winters assured her. "You just had major surgery. But the pain means you're alive to feel it. That's a good thing." Catalina's eyes found Michael standing near the window, trying to stay out of the way. "You came," she whispered. "Of course I came," Michael said, moving closer. "Had to make sure you kept your promise to fight." Catalina managed a tiny smile. "I fought." "You did more than fight," Michael said. "You won." Over the next few hours, Catalina drifted in and out of consciousness. Each time she woke, she seemed a little more alert, a little more present. The doctors were thrilled with her progress. By evening, Catalina was awake enough to have a real conversation, though she tired easily. "How long was I asleep?" she asked Rosa. "Almost 2 days," Rosa said, stroking her daughter's hair. "The surgery was Thursday morning. It's Saturday evening now." "2 days," Catalina repeated, her voice filled with wonder. "I survived 2 days." "You're going to survive a lot more than that," Michael said. He'd spent the entire day at the hospital, refusing to leave despite Rosa's protests. "You're going to survive years, decades, a whole lifetime." Catalina looked at him with eyes that seemed older than they had before surgery. "Michael, can I ask you something?" "Anything." "Why are you really here? I mean, the surgery is over. You've already done everything you promised. But you stayed. Why?" Michael was quiet for a long moment. Rosa watched him struggle with his answer, saw him trying to decide how honest to be. "Because," Michael finally said, "in the past 2 days, sitting in that waiting room with your mother, I felt more useful than I have in years. More real, more human. You and your mom gave me something I didn't know I needed." "What?" Catalina asked. "A reason to matter," Michael said simply. Not as Michael Jordan, the basketball player. Just as Michael, a person who cares about other people. Catalina studied him with an intensity that made Rosa uncomfortable. Her daughter had always been perceptive, but the surgery seemed to have sharpened something in her. A wisdom born from facing death and choosing life. "You're lonely," Catalina said, not as a question, but as a fact. Michael flinched slightly. "Yes." "So are we," Catalina said. "Or we were, and before you. It's strange, isn't it? How you can be surrounded by people and still feel completely alone." "Very strange," Michael agreed, his voice rough with emotion. "I think that's why God brought you to us," Catalina continued. "Not just to save my life, but to save all of us from being alone." Rosa felt her throat tighten. Her daughter, barely conscious after major surgery, was trying to heal Michael Jordan's loneliness. Michael sat down heavily in the chair beside Catalina's bed. He reached out and took her hand gently, careful of the IV lines. "You're a remarkable person, Catalina," he said. "Your mother raised someone truly special." "My mother is lonely too," Catalina said, and Rosa's eyes widened in surprise. "She's been so focused on keeping me alive that she forgot how to live. She works all the time. She never does anything for herself. She hasn't been on a date since my father died 7 years ago." "Catalina," Rosa said, embarrassed. "That's not—" "It's true, Mama," Catalina interrupted, her weak voice somehow still firm. "You've been in survival mode for so long. You've forgotten what it's like to actually enjoy life, to laugh, to have friends, to be happy." Rosa wanted to argue, but she couldn't. Her daughter was right. Catalina looked back at Michael. "That's what I need from you now. Not money or surgery or anything like that. I need you to help my mom remember how to live, how to be more than just my caretaker, how to be a person with her own dreams and happiness." Michael glanced at Rosa, who was staring at her daughter in shock. "What are you asking?" Michael said carefully. "Be her friend," Catalina said. "A real friend. Not someone she's grateful to or in awe of. Someone who sees her as a person. Not just my mother. Someone who helps her believe she deserves good things too." Michael was quiet, absorbing this request. Then he looked at Rosa and asked, "Is that what you want?" Rosa didn't know what she wanted. She'd spent 7 years focused entirely on survival and raising Catalina. The idea of having her own life, her own friendships, her own happiness. It felt foreign and slightly terrifying. "I don't know," Rosa admitted. "I don't know if I remember how to be anything other than a mother and a worker." "Then let me help you remember," Michael said gently. "Catalina's right. You've been so busy saving her that you forgot to save yourself." Rosa felt something crack open in her chest. A door she'd locked 7 years ago when Eduardo died. And she'd decided that her own happiness didn't matter anymore. Only Catalina's survival mattered. Only getting through each day mattered. "I'm scared," Rosa whispered. "Of what?" Michael asked. "Of wanting things again? Of hoping for more than just survival? What if I let myself be happy and everything falls apart? What if you let yourself be happy and everything gets better?" Michael countered. Catalina squeezed her mother's hand weakly. "Mama, I didn't survive this surgery so you could spend the rest of your life working yourself to death. I survived so we could both have real lives. Please, let Michael help you. Let yourself have friends and joy and all the things you deserve." Rosa looked at her daughter, pale and weak but so fierce in her love, and felt her resistance crumbling. "Okay," Rosa whispered. Okay, I'll try. Catalina smiled, exhausted but satisfied. Good, that's all I ask. Just try. She closed her eyes, drifting back to sleep. The conversation had taken all her energy. Rosa and Michael sat in silence for a while, processing what had just happened. Finally, Michael spoke. She's quite something, your daughter. She gets that from her father, Rosa said softly. Eduardo was always trying to fix everyone else's problems, even when he had plenty of his own. Tell me about him, Michael said. Tell me about Eduardo. So Rosa did. She told Michael about meeting Eduardo at a church social in Chicago, fresh off the bus from Guatemala. She told him about Eduardo's calloused hands and gentle heart, about how he worked construction 6 days a week, but always made time to play with Catalina. She told him about the accident, a scaffolding collapse that killed Eduardo and 2 other workers. She told him about the years of grief and guilt that followed. I asked him to take that job, Rosa said, her voice breaking. We needed the money, and the pay was good. If I hadn't pushed him to say yes, he might still be alive. You can't know that, Michael said firmly. You can't blame yourself for an accident. I've tried not to, Rosa admitted. But late at night, when I can't sleep, I always come back to the same thought. I killed him. I asked him to go, and he died. Michael reached over and took Rosa's hand. Listen to me. Eduardo made his own choice. He took that job because he loved his family and wanted to provide for them. That's not your fault. That's not your burden to carry. Rosa wanted to believe him, but 7 years of guilt was a heavy weight. Catalina doesn't know, Rosa whispered, about me asking him to take that job. She thinks it was just bad luck, just a terrible accident. I've never told her that I'm the reason her father is dead. Because you're not the reason, Michael insisted. A construction accident is the reason. Corporate negligence is the reason. Bad luck is the reason. But not you, Rosa. Never you. Rosa pulled her hand away and stood up, suddenly agitated. You don't understand. You can't understand. You've never had to watch someone you love die because of a choice you made. You're right, Michael said quietly. I haven't. But I watched my mother die because of delayed insurance approvals and bureaucratic red tape. And I blamed myself for not being there sooner, for not pushing harder, for not using my influence to make them move faster. I know what guilt feels like, Rosa. I know what it's like to torture yourself with what-ifs. Rosa turned to look at him, seeing the pain in his eyes. How did you stop blaming yourself? She asked. I didn't, Michael admitted. Not completely. But I'm learning. I'm trying. And having people in my life who refuse to let me stay stuck in that guilt, that helps. That's what Catalina is asking me to be for you. Someone who won't let you drown in blame that isn't yours to carry. Rosa felt tears sliding down her cheeks again. She seemed to cry constantly these days, like 7 years of held-back emotion were finally breaking free. I don't know if I can do this, she whispered. I don't know if I can let go of the guilt and the survival mode and just be a person who has a life. You don't have to know right now, Michael said. You just have to be willing to try. Will you try, Rosa? For Catalina? For yourself? Rosa looked at her daughter, sleeping peacefully, her repaired heart beating strong and steady. She thought about Catalina's words. I didn't survive this surgery, so you could spend the rest of your life working yourself to death. Yes, Rosa said finally. I'll try. Michael smiled. Good. Then let's start small. When's the last time you did something just for fun? Something that had nothing to do with work, or Catalina, or survival? Rosa thought about it and couldn't remember. I don't know. Years. Before Eduardo died, maybe. Then that's where we start, Michael said. Once Catalina is strong enough, once she's out of the hospital and recovering, and I want to take you somewhere. Somewhere fun. Somewhere you can just be Rosa. Not Catalina's mother or a hotel cleaner or a widow. Just Rosa. Will you let me do that? Rosa's first instinct was to refuse, but she'd promised Catalina. She'd promised to try. Okay, she said nervously. Where? It's a surprise, Michael said with a mysterious smile. But I promise you'll like it. They talked for a while longer, about smaller things, Chicago weather, favorite foods, childhood memories. Michael told Rosa about growing up in North Carolina, about his brothers and sisters, about learning to play basketball on a dirt court behind his house. I wasn't always good, he admitted. I got cut from my high school varsity team my sophomore year. I cried for hours, thought my life was over. But you became the greatest player ever, Rosa said. I became a good player who worked harder than everyone else, Michael corrected. And I learned that failure isn't the end. It's just the beginning of the next chapter. Is that what you tell yourself now? Rosa asked. When you're feeling lost or lonely? Michael considered this. I'm trying to. It's easier to give advice than to follow it yourself, though. That's very true, Rosa agreed. Around 9 o'clock, a nurse came in to check on Catalina and shooed both of them out. She needs rest, and so do you both. Go get some sleep. We'll call if anything changes. Rosa hesitated, reluctant to leave her daughter's side. She's right, Michael said gently. You haven't slept in days. Huck, you're going to make yourself sick. But what if? What if nothing happens and you collapse from exhaustion and can't be here when Catalina really needs you? Michael finished. Come on. I got you a hotel room near the hospital. Clean bed, hot shower, real food, just for a few hours. Rosa allowed herself to be convinced. She kissed Catalina's forehead gently, whispered, I love you, even though her daughter was asleep, and followed Michael out of the ICU. The hotel was less than 5 minutes from the hospital. Michael had thought of everything. He walked Rosa to her room and made sure she had everything she needed. Thank you, Rosa said at the door. For everything. For staying. For caring. For not giving up on us. Michael reached out and squeezed her shoulder. Thank you for letting me be part of this. For letting me matter. After he left, Rosa stood in the hotel room and looked around. It was nice. Nicer than anywhere she'd stayed in years. Clean sheets, soft pillows, a bathroom with good water pressure. She felt guilty for enjoying it. But then she thought about Catalina's words. I survived so we could both have real lives. Rosa took a long, hot shower, washing away days of hospital smell and stress. She put on clean clothes. Michael's assistant had somehow arranged for her overnight bag to be brought from Chicago. Then she lay down on the soft bed and expected to fall asleep immediately. But sleep wouldn't come. Her mind kept racing, replaying the past few days. The moment she met Michael in the hotel hallway. The surgery. Catalina waking up. The promise she'd made. Rosa pulled out her phone and texted Michael. Are you awake? And the response came immediately. Yes, can't sleep either. Everything okay? Everything's fine. I wanted to say something. What? Rosa typed carefully, choosing her words. Catalina was right. You're not just helping us. We're helping each other. And I want you to know that I see you. Not Michael Jordan, the legend. Just Michael, the person. And that person is worth knowing. There was a long pause. Then, thank you, Rosa. That means more than you know. I promised Catalina I'd be your friend. but I think I want to be your friend anyway. If that's okay. More than okay. I need friends who see me as human. I need people in my life who don't want anything from me except friendship. Then you have that. You have me. And Catalina. We're your family now, whether you like it or not. This time the pause was even longer. When Michael's response came, Rosa could feel the emotion behind the words. I like it very much. Thank you for adopting me. Rosa smiled, feeling something warm and hopeful bloom in her chest. For the first time in 7 years, she felt connected to someone outside of her daughter. She felt like maybe, just maybe, she could have a life that included friendship and joy, and all the things she'd thought she'd left behind with Eduardo. She set down her phone and closed her eyes. This time, sleep came quickly. In the morning, Rosa woke to sunlight streaming through the hotel window and a text from the hospital. Catalina had a great night. All vitals stable. Dr. Winters says she's doing better than expected. Rosa dressed quickly and rushed back to the hospital. When she entered Catalina's ICU room, her daughter was awake and sitting up slightly, and looking much more alert than the night before. "Mama," Catalina said, her voice still weak but clearer. "You look better. Did you sleep?" "I did," Rosa admitted, pulling up a chair. "You were right. I needed rest." "Good." Catalina paused, then asked carefully. "Did you talk to Michael about what I asked?" Rosa nodded. "Yes, we talked. And Mija, you were right about him too. He's lonely. He needs friends as much as we do." "So you'll be his friend? Really his friend? Not just someone who's grateful?" "Yes," Rosa said, and she meant it. "I will." Catalina smiled, a real, genuine smile that lit up her pale face. "Good. That makes me so happy, Mama. You deserve to have people in your life who care about you." There was a knock on the door, and Michael appeared, carrying a tray with 3 coffees and a bag of muffins. "To breakfast delivery," he announced. Then he saw Catalina sitting up, and his whole face brightened. "Look at you. You're sitting up already. Dr. Winters is going to be thrilled." "I feel like I got hit by a truck," Catalina admitted. "But I'm alive. And my heart." She placed her hand carefully over her bandaged chest. "I can feel it beating. Really beating. Stronger than it has in years." Michael set down the breakfast and came to the bedside. He started to hold back, to give her space, but Catalina held out her hand. "Come here," she said. Michael took her hand gently. "Thank you," Catalina whispered. "Thank you for saving my life. Thank you for seeing us as people worth saving. Thank you for being here." "Thank you for fighting," Michael said, his voice thick with emotion. "Thank you for being brave. But thank you for reminding me what really matters." Catalina looked between Michael and her mother, a satisfied expression on her young face. "You're both going to be okay now," she said with certainty. "All 3 of us are going to be okay." And for the first time in years, Rosa believed it was true. But Catalina wasn't finished. As Michael started to stand up to give them privacy, she tightened her grip on his hand. "Don't go," she said urgently. "Please, there's something else I need to tell you both. Something important." Michael sat back down, concerned. "What is it? Are you in pain? Should I get a nurse?" "No," Catalina said. "It's not that. It's—" She took a shaky breath. "When I was under anesthesia, I heard things, doctors talking, and I heard Dr. Winters say something to her team that she didn't tell us." Rosa's blood ran cold. "What did you hear?" Catalina's eyes filled with tears. "She said that even if the surgery works perfectly, even if my heart heals completely, there's a good chance I'll only have a few more years. maybe 5, maybe 10 if I'm lucky. The damage was too extensive. The repairs might not last forever. Rosa felt the world tilt. No, that can't be true. She said you were doing well. She said I'm doing well for now. Catalina interrupted gently. And I am. This surgery gave me time, Michael. You gave me time, but it didn't give me a normal lifespan. It didn't make me like other people my age. Michael looked stricken. Does Dr. Winters know you heard this? No, and I don't want her to know. I don't want anyone treating me like I'm dying again. I want to use whatever time I have to actually live. Catalina looked at Michael with fierce intensity. But I need you to promise me something. Something more important than anything else. Anything, Michael said immediately. Catalina turned to her mother. Mama, you too. I need you both to promise. Rosa nodded, unable to speak. Promise me, Catalina said, her voice urgent despite its weakness, that when I'm gone, whether it's in 5 years or 10 or 50, you won't let my death destroy you. Promise me you'll take care of each other, that you'll remember how to be happy, that my life will have mattered because it brought you two together and made you both better people. Rosa started sobbing. Don't talk like that. Please, Mija. You just woke up. You're going to live a long life. The doctors could be wrong, but they could... Maybe, Catalina said. Maybe they're wrong, but maybe they're right. And either way, I need to know that the people I love most in the world won't spend whatever time we have left being afraid. Promise me. Both of you. Michael looked at Rosa across Catalina's bed. Their eyes met, and Rosa saw her own grief and fear reflected back at her. I promise, Michael said, his voice breaking. I promise I'll take care of your mother. I promise I won't let her be alone. I promise that your life mattered more than you'll ever know. Rosa tried to speak, but couldn't. She just held her daughter's hand and nodded through her tears. Say it, Mama, Catalina insisted. I need to hear you say it. I promise, Rosa finally managed. I promise I won't let your death destroy me. I promise I'll take care of Michael too. And I promise we'll take care of each other. Catalina relaxed back against her pillows, looking more peaceful than she had in years. Good, she whispered. Then whatever happens, I can face it, because I know you'll both be okay. The three of them sat together in the ICU room, holding hands, connected by love and loss, and the strange, miraculous way tragedy could create family. And Rosa realized that Catalina's final request wasn't really about death at all. It was about making sure that everyone she loved remembered how to live. 3 days passed, then a week, then 2 weeks. Catalina's recovery exceeded every expectation. She moved from the ICU to a regular cardiac unit. The breathing tubes and most of the wires came off. She could sit up, eat real food, walk short distances with help. Color returned to her cheeks. Her strength returned to her voice. Dr. Winters was cautiously optimistic. Remarkable progress, she said during one of her daily visits. Your heart is responding beautifully to the repair. If this continues, we might be able to discharge you to outpatient care within another week or 2. Rosa watched her daughter bloom back to life and tried not to think about what Catalina had overheard during surgery. Tried not to count years instead of decades. Tried to focus on now, on the miracle of each day. But late at night, when Catalina slept and Rosa sat alone in the hospital room, the fear crept in. 5 years, maybe 10. Not enough. Never enough. Michael visited every single day, sometimes twice a day. He'd rearranged his entire life to be in Baltimore, conducting business calls from the hospital cafeteria, missing events and appearances, ignoring his assistant's increasingly frantic messages about commitments. "Don't you have places to be?" Rosa asked one afternoon, as Michael settled into the chair beside Catalina's bed, with a book he'd brought to read aloud. "I'm exactly where I need to be," Michael said simply. Rosa noticed how comfortable he'd become in this small hospital room, how he knew which nurses were on which shifts, which cafeteria food was edible, where the good coffee machine was hidden, how he'd stopped trying to hide behind baseball caps and sunglasses, letting the hospital staff recognize him, but setting boundaries about privacy. She also noticed how he looked at Catalina, not with pity, but with genuine affection, like a favorite niece, like family. And she noticed how Catalina looked at him, studying him when he wasn't paying attention, as if trying to memorize his face, as if she was worried about something. On a Tuesday afternoon, 2.5 weeks after surgery, Catalina asked Rosa to take a walk. She was strong enough now to walk the hospital corridors with just a wheelchair for backup if she got tired. They made slow progress down the hallway, Catalina leaning on Rosa's arm. Through the windows, they could see Baltimore spread out below. A city full of people living their ordinary lives, unaware of the miracles and tragedies unfolding in the hospital above them. "Mama," Catalina said as they paused by a window, "I need to tell you something, and I need you not to get upset." Rosa's heart clenched. "What is it?" "I've been watching you and Michael, the way you are together, the way you talk and laugh and take care of each other." Catalina paused. "See, you're friends now, real friends, not just two people connected by me." "Yes," Rosa said carefully, unsure where this was going. "Is that a problem?" "No, it's perfect. It's exactly what I wanted." Catalina turned to face her mother. "But Mama, I need you to understand something. When I asked you to be Michael's friend, to help him not be lonely, I wasn't just thinking about now. I was thinking about after." "After what?" "After I'm gone." Rosa felt like she'd been punched. "Catalina, don't listen to me," Catalina said firmly. "I know what I heard during surgery. I know that the doctors think I have limited time, and before you try to tell me they could be wrong or that miracles happen, I need you to hear me. Really hear me." Rosa forced herself to be quiet, though every instinct screamed to argue. "I'm not afraid of dying anymore," Catalina said quietly. "The surgery gave me something more precious than extra years. It gave me peace. I know now that I fought as hard as I could, that you did everything possible to save me, that I got to wake up and see you smile again. Really smile. Not that fake smile you've been wearing for years." Tears streamed down Rosa's face, but she didn't interrupt. "But I am afraid of you," Catalina continued. "I'm afraid of what will happen to you when I'm gone. I'm afraid you'll go back to survival mode, working yourself to death, refusing to have any kind of life because you think you don't deserve happiness without me." "Of course I don't deserve," Rosa started, but Catalina cut her off. "Stop. Stop punishing yourself. You didn't kill Papa. You didn't give me a bad heart. And you didn't do anything wrong except love us too much to see that you matter too." Catalina gripped her mother's arm. "That's why I needed you to become real friends with Michael. Because he understands loneliness. He understands grief. And when I'm gone, he'll be there to remind you that you're still alive, that you still deserve joy and friendship and all the things that make life worth living." Rosa couldn't speak. She could barely breathe. "Promise me again," Catalina said. "Promise me that you won't disappear into yourself when I die. Promise me you'll let Michael help you. Promise me you'll actually live, Mama. Not just exist. Live." "I promise," Rosa whispered. "But Mija, you're not going anywhere. You're getting stronger every day. You're going to—" Maybe, Catalina interrupted gently. Maybe I'll have 10 years, maybe 20. Maybe I'll be the miracle case that lasts 50 years. But maybe I won't. And I need to know that either way, you'll be okay. That Michael will make sure you're okay. They stood by the window, mother and daughter, holding each other as people rushed past them in the corridor, doctors and nurses and visitors, all caught up in their own dramas of life and death. "Does Michael know?" Rosa finally asked. "About what you overheard?" "Yes, I told him last week when you went to get lunch." Rosa pulled back in surprise. "What did he say?" "He cried," Catalina said simply. "He held my hand and cried, and told me that he'd spend however long I had, making sure I got to do all the things I dreamed of. And then he promised, really promised, that he'd take care of you, that you'd never be alone, that you'd be family to him forever, and not just while I'm alive, but after too." Rosa felt something break open in her chest, a grief so profound she didn't know how to contain it. But mixed with the grief was something else: gratitude, love, the strange comfort of knowing that even in death, her daughter had made sure she wouldn't face the world alone. "How are you so wise?" Rosa asked through her tears. "You're only 17. "I've had a lot of time to think about death," Catalina said. "It makes you clear about what really matters. And what matters, Mama, is love. Not just romantic love, though that's beautiful too, but the love between friends, between people who choose to be family, even when they don't have to be. That's the love you and Michael have now. That's the love that will save you when I can't anymore." They walked back to Catalina's room slowly. When they arrived, Michael was already there, chatting with one of the nurses. He looked up as they entered, and his face immediately showed concern at Rosa's tear-stained cheeks. "Everything okay?" he asked. "Everything's perfect," Catalina said, before Rosa could answer. "Mama and I were just talking about how lucky we are. How lucky we all are to have found each other." Michael studied them both, clearly sensing there was more to the story. But he didn't push. He just smiled and held up a bag from a nearby bakery. "I brought contraband," he announced. "Real chocolate chip cookies. The kind that aren't hospital-approved but taste like actual food." Catalina laughed, a real, joyful sound that Rosa hadn't heard in years. They spent the afternoon eating cookies and talking about silly things, movies they wanted to see, places they wanted to visit, memories that made them laugh. And Rosa watched her daughter and her new friend together, seeing the easy affection between them. The way Michael made Catalina laugh, the way Catalina made Michael forget to be a legend and just be a person. She understood now what Catalina had been doing. Not just surviving surgery, but building a safety net, creating connections that would last beyond her own life, making sure that the people she loved wouldn't be destroyed by losing her. It was the most selfless thing Rosa had ever witnessed. That night, after Catalina fell asleep, Rosa walked Michael out to the parking lot. They stood by his car in the warm Baltimore evening, neither quite ready to say goodbye. "She told me," Rosa said quietly, "about your conversation last week, and about what she overheard during surgery." Michael nodded. "I wondered if she would." "She's planning for her death," Rosa said, her voice breaking. "She's 17 years old, and she's making sure we'll be okay without her." "I know." Michael's voice was rough with emotion. "It's the bravest thing I've ever seen." "How do I do this?" Rosa asked desperately. "How do I watch her prepare to leave me? How do I smile and pretend everything is fine when I know that every moment might be one of our last?" Michael was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, You do it by honoring what she wants. She doesn't want you to spend her remaining time, whether it's 5 years or 50, drowning in grief. She wants joy, laughter, life. She wants to know that her existence mattered, and that it created something beautiful that will outlast her body. And did it? Rosa whispered. Did her life create something beautiful? Michael reached out and took Rosa's hand. It created us, this friendship, this connection. You and me, Rosa. We're what Catalina's life created. We're the proof that her time on Earth mattered. And when she's gone, we'll carry that forward. We'll be the living testament to her love. Rosa squeezed his hand, drawing strength from his certainty. You really think we can do that? Really take care of each other the way she wants? I know we can, Michael said firmly, because she chose well. She saw something in both of us, something worth saving, worth connecting. And I'm not going to let her down. I'm not going to let you down. Even when I'm difficult, Rosa asked, even when I'm drowning in grief and pushing everyone away? Especially then, Michael said. That's when friends matter most. When it's hard. When you can't see the light. That's when I'll remind you of your promise. That's when I'll drag you back to living, even when you don't want to. Rosa felt tears sliding down her cheeks again. I don't know if I'm strong enough. You are, Michael said. You've been strong for 7 years, working 3 jobs, fighting insurance companies, refusing to give up on Catalina, even when everyone else said it was hopeless. You're the strongest person I know, Rosa. You just don't see it yet. They stood in comfortable silence for a while, holding hands, watching the stars appear in the darkening sky. Michael? Rosa said finally. And can I ask you something? Anything. What did you mean when you said helping us made you feel useful again? What were you struggling with before you met us? Michael was quiet for so long that Rosa thought he might not answer. Then he sighed deeply and leaned against his car. After I retired from basketball, he began slowly, I thought I'd figure out who I was without the game. I had business ventures, charity work, endorsements, plenty to keep me busy. But busy isn't the same as fulfilled. I started to realize that people didn't see me anymore. They saw Michael Jordan, the brand, the icon, the legend, but not Michael, the person. He paused, gathering his thoughts. I'd be at events surrounded by hundreds of people, all of them wanting something from me, an autograph, a photo, a piece of my time, my money, my influence. And I'd feel completely alone. More alone than when I was actually by myself. That sounds terrible, Rosa said softly. It was. And the worst part was feeling guilty about it. I had everything anyone could want. How could I complain about being lonely when I was rich and famous and successful? How could I admit that the life everyone envied felt empty? Michael turned to look at Rosa. Then I heard you crying in that hotel hallway. And for the first time in years, someone needed me. Not Michael Jordan the celebrity, but just Michael, a person who could help. You didn't want an autograph or a photo. You just needed someone to see you, to care. And that's what I needed too. To be seen, Rosa said, understanding. To be seen, Michael confirmed. Catalina figured that out immediately. That's why she asked you to be my friend. She knew I needed someone who saw past the legend. Someone who cared about Michael the person, not Michael Jordan the icon. I do see you, Rosa said. I see someone kind and generous and lonely. Someone who uses humor to hide pain. Someone who's still grieving his mother and doesn't know how to fill the hole she left behind. Michael's eyes glistened with tears. Thank you. That means more than you know. You see me too, Rosa said. You see past the hotel cleaner, past the struggling single mother, past all the labels. You see Rosa, the person who loves her daughter, who misses her husband, who's terrified of being happy because happiness always seems to get taken away. It won't this time, Michael said. I won't let it. Rosa wanted to believe him, but 7 years of loss had taught her that promises couldn't protect against pain. But still, standing in that parking lot with Michael's hand warm in hers, she felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. Not the desperate hope of surgery and survival, but the quieter hope of knowing she wouldn't face the future alone. We should get back, Michael said eventually. Early morning tomorrow. Dr. Winters wants to run more tests. They walked back toward the hospital entrance together. As they reached the doors, Michael stopped. Rosa, one more thing. Yes? When Catalina is strong enough, when she's discharged and back home recovering, I want to take you both somewhere. Somewhere special. Will you let me do that? Where? Rosa asked. Michael smiled mysteriously. It's a surprise, but I think it will help. I think it will show Catalina that the time she has, however long it is, can be filled with joy and adventure and all the things she's dreamed about. Rosa hesitated, then nodded. Okay, when she's ready, we'll go. Good, it's a date. They parted ways at the elevators, Michael heading to his hotel, Rosa back to Catalina's room. When Rosa entered, she found her daughter awake, staring at the ceiling. Couldn't sleep? Rosa asked, pulling the chair close to the bed. Too much on my mind, Catalina admitted. She turned to look at her mother. Were you talking to Michael? Yes. Is he okay? Did you upset him? Rosa smiled at her daughter's concern. Even now, Catalina was worried about everyone else. He's fine. We had a good talk. An honest talk. About me? About a lot of things. Oh, about loneliness and friendship, and what it means to really see another person. Catalina relaxed slightly. Good. I worry about him, you know. He acts strong, but he's fragile underneath. Like he's one disappointment away from giving up on people entirely. You've given him hope, Rosa said. We both have. He told me that helping us made him feel useful again. Made him remember why success matters, not for its own sake, but for what it allows you to do for others. He's a good man, Catalina said softly. Better than he knows. I'm glad you're friends now. Real friends. Me too, mija. Me too. They were quiet for a moment. Then Catalina said something that made Rosa's heart stop. Mama, I need to tell you something else. Something I haven't told anyone. Not even Michael. What is it? Catalina's eyes filled with tears. So I'm not just worried about you being alone after I die. I'm worried about Michael too. I think he's been suicidal. Not actively, but the thoughts are there. The wondering if the world would be better without him. If his life really matters. Rosa's blood ran cold. What? How do you know? The way he talks sometimes. The things he doesn't say. The look in his eyes when he thinks no one is watching. Catalina gripped her mother's hand. That's the real reason I needed you two to become friends. Not just so you won't be alone, but so he won't be alone either. So you can save each other. Rosa felt the weight of this revelation settle on her shoulders. She thought about Michael's words in the parking lot. I was standing on my balcony at 3 a.m, wondering if any of my success actually mattered. And she'd been so focused on her own pain, her own loss, that she hadn't fully understood the depth of Michael's struggle. What do I do? Rosa whispered. How do I help him? The same way he helped us, Catalina said. You see him, You care about him. You refuse to let him disappear into his own darkness. And when I'm gone, you have each other. You remind each other that life is worth living, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Rosa pulled her daughter into a gentle embrace, careful of the healing incision. When did you become so wise about saving people? I learned from you, Catalina said. You never gave up on me, even when everyone said it was hopeless. Now you can't give up on Michael, or yourself. Promise me, Mama. I promise, Rosa whispered. I promise I'll take care of him. I promise I'll take care of myself. I promise we'll take care of each other. Good, Catalina said, relaxing in her mother's arms. Then everything will be okay. However long I have, I'll know that the people I love most won't be destroyed by losing me. I'll know that my life created something beautiful that will last forever. They held each other in the quiet hospital room, listening to the beep of monitors and the distant sound of nurses' footsteps in the hallway. Rosa thought about the strange journey that had brought them here, from a hotel hallway at 3 in the morning to this moment of profound understanding. She thought about Michael, alone in his hotel room, carrying his own secret burdens. She thought about Catalina, dying but still finding ways to heal everyone around her. And she thought about herself, Rosa Delgado, hotel cleaner, widow, a mother, who had somehow been given the impossible gift of friendship with a legend, and the terrible responsibility of making sure neither of them gave up on life. I love you, mija, Rosa whispered. I love you too, Mama, Catalina said. And I'm not afraid anymore, because I know you'll both be okay. I know my life mattered. I know I'm leaving the world better than I found it. Rosa held her daughter tighter and let herself cry. Not tears of grief this time, but tears of gratitude. Gratitude for the surgery that gave them more time. Gratitude for Michael, who'd given them both so much more than money. Gratitude for Catalina, whose courage and wisdom were teaching them all how to live. The secret burden Catalina carried, the knowledge of her limited time, had become a gift. Not the gift of years, but the gift of clarity. The gift of knowing what mattered. The gift of using whatever time remained to create love and connection and meaning. Rosa understood now that this was what Catalina had been doing all along. Not just surviving, but purposefully building something that would outlast her physical presence. Building friendships, building hope, building a reason for the people she loved to keep living even after she was gone. It was the most beautiful, heartbreaking thing Rosa had ever witnessed, and she would honor it. She would keep her promise. She would live. Not just exist, but truly live. For Catalina, for Michael, for herself, for the secret burden her daughter had carried and transformed into a gift of love. 4 weeks after surgery, Dr. Winters stood in Catalina's hospital room with a smile that reached her eyes. I'm discharging you today, she announced. Your heart function is better than I dared hope. The synthetic scaffolding has integrated beautifully with your tissue. You're ready to go home. Catalina sat up straighter in bed, her face lighting up with joy. Really? I can go home? With restrictions, Dr. Winters cautioned. No strenuous activity for at least 3 months. Regular follow-up appointments. Medication compliance is critical. But yes, Catalina, you're ready to leave the hospital and start recovering at home. Rosa felt tears spring to her eyes. Happy tears this time. Her daughter was coming home, alive, healing, given a second chance that seemed impossible just a month ago. Michael, who'd been sitting in his usual chair by the window, stood and came to shake Dr. Winters's hand. Thank you. Thank you for everything. doctor." And Winters smiled at him. "She did most of the work. I just gave her body the tools it needed to heal itself." She turned to Catalina. "You're a fighter, young lady. Keep fighting. Keep living. Make every day count." After Dr. Winters left, the three of them sat in stunned silence for a moment, processing the news. "I'm going home," Catalina whispered, as if saying it aloud might make it untrue. "I'm actually going home." "You're going home," Rosa confirmed, reaching out to hold her daughter's hand. "Our apartment. Your own bed. No more hospital food." "Though Michael's brought enough good food that I barely remember what hospital food tastes like," Catalina said with a grin. Michael laughed. "Well, I couldn't let you suffer through that cafeteria nonsense. And I have standards." They spent the morning packing up Catalina's room, the flowers and cards that had accumulated, the drawings she'd made for other patients, the small personal items that had made the sterile space feel more like home. Rosa folded the Bulls jersey, Michael's jersey from the '98 finals, carefully and placed it in Catalina's bag. "That's coming with us," Catalina said firmly. "It's my good luck charm now." "It was always meant to bring someone luck," Michael said softly. "I'm glad it's you." By early afternoon, they were ready to leave. A nurse brought a wheelchair, hospital policy, even though Catalina could walk, and they made their way through the corridors that had become so familiar. Other patients and staff who'd gotten to know Catalina over the past month waved and called out good wishes. She'd made friends here, to the way she made friends everywhere, with her drawings, her smile, her genuine interest in other people's stories. At the hospital entrance, a medical transport van waited to take them back to Chicago. Michael had arranged everything, of course. The van was equipped with a comfortable bed for Catalina, medical supplies in case of emergency, and enough snacks to feed an army. "You didn't have to do all this," Rosa said as Michael helped Catalina into the van. "I know," Michael said, "but I wanted to. Besides, I'm coming too." Rosa stopped. "What? You're coming to Chicago?" "Well, I can't miss the homecoming, can I? Plus, I have a surprise planned. Remember? I told you I'd take you somewhere special once Catalina was better." Catalina's eyes widened. "A surprise? What kind of surprise?" "If I told you, oh, it wouldn't be a surprise," Michael said with a mysterious smile. "But I promise you'll like it. Both of you." The drive back to Chicago took most of the day. Catalina dozed in the comfortable bed, exhausted despite her excitement. Rosa sat beside her, one hand always touching her daughter, a shoulder, an arm, a hand, as if afraid that if she stopped touching her, Catalina might disappear. Michael sat in the front, making phone calls and sending texts, arranging whatever surprise he had planned. Rosa watched him work and felt a surge of gratitude so strong it almost hurt. This man had reorganized his entire life for them, had spent a month in Baltimore, had paid for everything without ever making them feel like a burden. More than that, he'd become family, real family, the kind you chose, not the kind you were born into. As the Chicago skyline came into view, Catalina woke up and pressed her face to the window. "Home," she breathed. "I never thought I'd see it again." Rosa's throat tightened. She knew what Catalina meant. 4 weeks ago, her daughter had been days from death. Now she was here, alive, coming home. The van pulled up to their apartment building, a modest 3-story structure in a working-class neighborhood. Rosa suddenly felt embarrassed about the peeling paint and cracked sidewalk. Michael was used to luxury hotels and mansions, not places like this. But if Michael noticed or cared, he didn't show it. He helped Catalina out of the van carefully, supporting her as she took her first steps on Chicago soil in a month. "It's good to be home," Catalina said, to breathing in the familiar air, city smells mixed with someone's cooking, and the bakery on the corner. They made their way slowly up to the second floor. Rosa unlocked the apartment door, and Catalina stepped inside, her eyes filling with tears. Everything was exactly as they'd left it. The small living room with its worn couch and second-hand coffee table. The kitchen barely big enough to turn around in. The single bedroom they shared, with Catalina's twin bed against one wall and Rosa's against the other. It was small and shabby and home. "I missed this place," Catalina said, sinking onto the couch. "I missed it so much." Rosa sat beside her, putting an arm around her daughter's thin shoulders. "I'm so glad you're here to miss it." Michael stood in the doorway, looking slightly uncomfortable but trying to hide it. Rosa realized he probably hadn't been in a place this small or modest in decades. "Come in," Rosa said. "Don't just stand there. You're family now. You don't need an invitation." Michael stepped inside and closed the door. He looked around the apartment, taking in the faded curtains, the photos of Eduardo on the walls, the small altar Rosa kept with candles, and a picture of the Virgin Mary. "It's nice," he said, and Rosa could tell he meant it. "It feels like a home, like people actually live here and love each other." "We do," Catalina said. "This place has a lot of love in it. Not a lot of space, but plenty of love." They spent the afternoon settling Catalina back in. Rosa made her comfortable on the couch with pillows and blankets. Michael went out and returned with bags of groceries. Real food, not hospital meals or takeout, but ingredients for home cooking. "I remember you mentioned you like to cook," Michael said to Rosa, "before everything happened, before you were working 3 jobs and had no time." Rosa stared at the bags of fresh vegetables, good meat, spices she hadn't bought in years because they were too expensive. "Michael, this is too much." "It's not enough," Michael said firmly. "You haven't cooked a real meal in years. You deserve to do something you love, and Catalina deserves home-cooked food while she recovers." Rosa felt tears threatening again. She seemed to cry constantly these days, happy tears, grateful tears, overwhelmed tears. "Thank you," she whispered. That evening, Rosa cooked her first real meal in years. She made Eduardo's favorite, arroz con pollo, with sofrito and saffron, and all the traditional spices. The apartment filled with the smell of home, of memory, of love made tangible through food. Michael set the small table while Catalina supervised from the couch, too tired to help, but happy to watch her mother move around the kitchen with purpose and joy. When the food was ready, they ate together. Rosa, Catalina, and Michael crowded around a table meant for 2. They talked and laughed and told stories. Michael shared memories of his mother's cooking, how she used to make him her special mac and cheese before big games. "She said it was magic," Michael remembered, smiling. "That it would help me play better. I believed her for years." "Did it work?" Catalina asked. "Every time," Michael said with a grin, "though I think the magic was just knowing she believed in me." After dinner, Catalina insisted on washing the dishes despite Rosa's protests. "I need to do something normal," Catalina said. "Something that proves I'm alive and home and not an invalid. Let me wash dishes, Mama." So Rosa let her, watching carefully to make sure Catalina didn't overdo it. Michael dried while Catalina washed, the 2 of them working together in the tiny kitchen. Rosa watched them and felt her heart expand with something she couldn't quite name. Not just gratitude or relief, but something deeper. Family. Connection. The sense that everything had changed, and somehow, impossibly, changed for the better. After the dishes were done, Michael checked his phone and smiled mysteriously. "Okay," he said. Time for the surprise I promised. Now? Rosa asked. It's almost 8 o'clock. See, Catalina should be resting. This won't take long, Michael said, and I promise it's worth it. Catalina, how are you feeling? Can you manage a short trip? Catalina's eyes lit up. Yes, definitely yes. Where are we going? You'll see, Michael said, but you might want to bring that Bulls jersey. 20 minutes later, they were in Michael's car, a luxury sedan that felt like a spaceship compared to any vehicle Rosa had ever been in. Catalina sat in the back, wearing Eduardo's old Bulls jersey over her clothes, looking more alive than she had in years. They drove through Chicago as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. Rosa watched the familiar streets pass by and wondered where Michael was taking them. Then she saw it. The United Center, rising up against the evening sky like a temple. Michael, Rosa breathed. Is this Eduardo's promise? Michael said softly, pulling into a private entrance. He promised Catalina he'd take her to a Bulls game. Tonight, we're keeping that promise. Catalina pressed her face to the window, tears streaming down her cheeks. We're going to a game? Tonight? Not just any game, Michael said. Come on, you'll see. They parked, and Michael led them through private corridors, past security guards who nodded respectfully, through passages that regular fans never saw. Rosa held Catalina's arm, supporting her daughter as they walked, both of them overwhelmed and confused. Finally, they emerged into the arena itself. But something was wrong. The lights were dimmed. The seats were empty. There was no crowd, no noise, no game. Rosa turned to Michael, confused. I don't understand. Is the game canceled? Michael smiled, a soft, genuine smile that transformed his whole face. There's no game tonight, at least not a real one. Come on. He led them down to the court, the actual court where Michael Jordan had won championships, where legends were made. Rosa's legs felt weak as they stepped onto the polished wood floor. The arena was empty, except for a handful of people on the court. Rosa recognized some of them. Former Bulls players, she thought, though she'd never followed basketball closely enough to know names. But Catalina knew. Rosa heard her daughter gasp. That's Scottie Pippen, Catalina whispered, her voice awed. And Dennis Rodman, and Steve Kerr. Papa used to tell me about all of them. I called in some favors, Michael said quietly. Got some of the old team together. We're going to play a game. Not a real one, just some shooting around, some fun. And Catalina, I want you on my team. Catalina stared at him in disbelief. What? I can't play. I just had heart surgery. I can barely walk without getting tired. You don't have to run or jump or do anything strenuous, Michael said. But you can stand at the free throw line and take a shot. You can hold the ball. You can be on the court with us. You can have the experience your father wanted you to have. Catalina's face crumpled. She turned to her mother, seeking permission, seeking confirmation that this was real. Rosa nodded, unable to speak. Michael took Catalina's hand and led her onto the court. The other players gathered around, introducing themselves, shaking her hand gently, treating her not like a sick kid, but like a teammate. Rosa stood at the edge of the court, watching her daughter, thin and pale but glowing with joy, standing in the center of the United Center, surrounded by basketball legends, wearing her father's old jersey. Scottie Pippen handed Catalina a basketball. Your dad was a Bulls fan, huh? The biggest, Catalina said, her voice choked with emotion. He used to tell me stories about the championship years, about Michael's shot against Utah, about the flu game, about never giving up. Sounds like a smart man, Scotty said. He was the best, Catalina whispered. Michael guided Catalina to the free throw line. The other players spread out around the court, but all eyes were on Catalina. Your father promised you'd get to see a Bulls game, Michael said softly. This isn't exactly what he had in mind, but I think it's close enough. This is for Eduardo. This is his promise. Kept. Catalina stood at the free throw line, holding the basketball, tears streaming down her face. She looked up at the empty seats rising around them, at the championship banners hanging from the rafters, at the court where history had been made. Then she looked at the basket. She lifted the ball. It was heavy, too heavy for her weakened arms, and Michael steadied her, helping her find the strength. Take your time, he said. Whenever you're ready. Catalina took a shaky breath. Then she shot. The ball arced through the air in slow motion. Rosa held her breath. The entire arena seemed to hold its breath. The ball hit the rim, bounced once, twice, and dropped through the net. The sound of the ball hitting the floor echoed through the empty arena like thunder. The players erupted in cheers. They rushed to Catalina, high-fiving her, celebrating like she'd just won a championship. Michael lifted her hand in victory, and Catalina laughed, really laughed, with pure, unbridled joy. Rosa stood on the sideline, sobbing openly, not caring who saw. This moment, this impossible, beautiful moment, was Eduardo's promise kept. This was their daughter, alive, making a basket on the court her father had dreamed about. For the next hour, they played. Not a real game, just shooting and passing and laughing. Catalina mostly sat on the bench, but occasionally Michael would call her in to take a shot or make a pass. Each time, the players cheered like she'd done something miraculous. Because she had. She'd survived. She'd fought her way back from death. She was standing on an NBA court, wearing her father's jersey, living a dream that should have died with Eduardo 7 years ago. Rosa watched her daughter's face, lit up with happiness, flushed with exertion, but not dangerously so, alive in a way Rosa hadn't seen since before the diagnosis. This was the gift Michael had given them. Not just the surgery, not just the money, but this. A moment of pure joy, of dreams fulfilled, of promises kept. When Catalina finally had to sit down, too exhausted to continue, Michael came and sat beside her on the bench. Rosa joined them, the three of them sitting together on the sideline while the other players continued shooting around. Thank you, Catalina whispered to Michael. Thank you for this. Thank you for keeping Papa's promise. He would have kept it himself if he could, Michael said gently. I'm just standing in, making sure his daughter gets what he wanted her to have. He would have liked you, Catalina said. Papa always said the best thing about Michael Jordan wasn't the championships. It was that you never stopped trying, never stopped fighting, never gave up, even when things were impossible. Your father sounds like he was wise. He was. Catalina leaned her head on Michael's shoulder. I wish he could be here. I wish he could see this. He can, Rosa said softly. I believe he can. And I believe he's proud of you, mija. So proud. They sat together in comfortable silence, watching the players laugh and joke on the court. Then Michael spoke, his voice careful. Catalina, there's something else I want to talk to you about. A foundation I'm starting. I'm calling it the Eduardo Delgado Foundation. Catalina lifted her head, confused. See, what? A foundation that will pay for life-saving surgeries for kids whose families can't afford them, Michael explained. Kids like you, who need experimental treatments or procedures that insurance won't cover. Kids who deserve to live, but can't, because of money. Rosa felt her heart stop. Michael, you can't. That's too much." "It's not enough," Michael interrupted. "Nothing will ever be enough to repay what you and Catalina have given me. But this is a start. This is how we make sure other families don't have to cry in hotel hallways at 3 in the morning because they're watching their child die and can't do anything about it." "You're naming it after Papa?" Catalina asked, her voice small and awed. "I am. Because Eduardo's love for you, his promise to give you a good life, his dreams for your future. That's what this is about. Honoring the love parents have for their children. Making sure that love doesn't end in tragedy just because of money." Catalina started crying again, and Rosa pulled her daughter close. Michael put his arms around both of them, and they sat there on the bench in the empty arena, the three of them connected by love and loss and hope. "There's one more thing," Michael said. "Rosa, I want you to run the foundation. Not just in name, but really run it. Work with families. Help them navigate the system. Be the advocate you wish you'd had when Catalina got sick." Rosa pulled back in shock. "What? I can't. I'm not qualified. I clean hotels, Michael. I don't know how to run a foundation." "You know what it's like to fight for your child's life," Michael said firmly. You know what these families are going through. You know the system, the bureaucracy, the endless phone calls and denials and appeals. You're more qualified than anyone. But I don't have education. You have experience. You have empathy. You have fire in your belly and love in your heart. That's what matters." Michael took her hand. "Let me train you. Let me give you the resources and support you need. But please, Rosa, say yes. Help me turn your pain into purpose. Help me make sure no other mother has to go through what you went through alone." Rosa looked at her daughter, who was nodding encouragingly. "You'd be amazing at it, Mama," Catalina said. "You'd help so many people. You'd save lives." Rosa thought about the denial letters, the endless phone calls, and the feeling of helplessness as she watched her daughter dying and couldn't save her. She thought about other mothers, other families, going through the same hell. And she thought about Catalina's words. "My life mattered, because it created something beautiful that will last forever." "Yes," Rosa whispered. "Yes, I'll do it." Michael squeezed her hand. "Thank you. You're saving me again, Rosa. Giving me purpose. Giving me a reason to believe my success actually matters." They sat together as the players finished up and started to leave, each one stopping to say goodbye to Catalina, to tell her she was brave, to wish her well. When everyone had gone, and it was just the three of them in the empty arena, Michael stood. "There's one more thing to do," he said. "The most important thing." He walked to center court and gestured for Rosa and Catalina to join him. They stood together under the lights, in the middle of the famous court, surrounded by empty seats that had witnessed so much history. "I want to make this official," Michael said. "I want to say out loud what we all know in our hearts. You're my family now, both of you. Not because of obligation or gratitude or anything except choice. I choose you. You chose me. We're family." "Family," Catalina repeated, smiling through her tears. "Family," Rosa agreed, her voice strong and sure. They stood together on the court, holding hands, three people who shouldn't have met, but had become essential to each other. Three people who had saved each other in different ways. Rosa looked up at the championship banners hanging from the rafters and thought about everything that had happened in the past 6 weeks. The crying in the hotel hallway, the surgery, the recovery, this moment. She thought about Eduardo and how proud he would be. She thought about the foundation that would bear his name and save countless lives. She thought about her daughter alive and laughing and making basketball shots on a court her father had only dreamed about. And she thought about Michael, lonely, searching for purpose, finding family in the most unexpected place. "Thank you," Rosa said, not to Michael specifically, but to the universe, to God, to whatever force had brought them together. "Thank you for the miracle." "Which miracle?" Catalina asked. Rosa looked at her daughter, then at Michael, then back at Catalina. "All of them, the surgery, Michael finding us, this moment, but mostly the miracle of love, the way it finds us when we need it most, the way it saves us in both directions. Love in both directions," Michael repeated softly. "I like that." They stood in the center of the United Center for a few more minutes, none of them wanting the moment to end. Then Catalina yawned, a huge, exhausted yawn that reminded them all that she was still recovering, still fragile, still fighting. "Time to go home," Rosa said, putting an arm around her daughter's shoulders. They made their way back through the private corridors out to Michael's car. The drive home was quiet, Catalina dozing in the back seat, exhausted but happy. When they arrived at the apartment, Michael helped them inside. He stood in the doorway, he clearly not wanting to leave but not sure if he should stay. "You can come in," Rosa said. "You don't have to go." "I don't want to intrude." "Your family," Rosa interrupted. "Family doesn't intrude. Family belongs." So Michael came inside. They made tea and sat together in the small living room, talking quietly while Catalina slept on the couch. "I meant what I said," Michael told Rosa, "about the foundation, about you running it. I'll help you every step of the way. Training, resources, everything you need. But Rosa, this has to be yours. It has to be families helping families. That's what will make it work." "I'm scared," Rosa admitted. "What if I fail? What if I can't help people the way you think I can?" "Then you'll learn and try again," Michael said simply. "That's what I did with basketball. Failed, learned, tried again. And that's what you did fighting for Catalina. That's what being human is about. Trying, failing, and refusing to give up." Rosa nodded slowly. "When do we start?" "Whenever you're ready. Next week, next month, whenever. There's no rush. For now, focus on Catalina's recovery, on settling into your new life. The foundation will be there when you're ready." They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Michael stood to leave. "Get some rest," he said. "I'll come by tomorrow. We can start planning." "Michael?" Rosa called as he reached the door. He turned back. "Thank you," Rosa said simply, "for everything. For seeing us, for caring, for becoming family." Michael's eyes glistened with emotion. "Thank you for letting me. Thank you for saving my life." "We didn't," Rosa started to protest. "You did," Michael interrupted gently. "No, you absolutely did. And I will spend the rest of my life being grateful." After he left, Rosa sat in the quiet apartment, listening to Catalina's soft breathing, thinking about everything that had changed. 6 weeks ago, she'd been crying in a hotel hallway, holding a denial letter, preparing to watch her daughter die. Now, Catalina was home, recovering, alive. Now Rosa had a purpose beyond survival. Now they had family, chosen family, the best kind, in the form of a lonely legend who needed them as much as they needed him. Rosa looked at the photo of Eduardo on the wall, young and smiling, holding baby Catalina, frozen in a moment of pure happiness. "We kept your promise," Rosa whispered to the photo. "Our girl got to play basketball at the United Center. She's going to live, Eduardo. She's going to be okay." She paused, then added, "So, and I'm going to be okay too. I'm going to stop punishing myself. I'm going to live, not just survive. I'm going to honor you by being happy again, by having a life worth living. Is that okay?" In the silence of the apartment, Rosa felt a sense of peace wash over her. She chose to believe it was Eduardo's answer, his blessing, his love reaching across the years to tell her it was okay to move forward, to be happy, to let new people into her heart. Rosa got up and covered Catalina with a blanket, kissed her sleeping daughter's forehead, and then went to bed herself, in her own bed, in her own apartment, with her daughter breathing steadily in the next bed over. As she drifted off to sleep, Rosa thought about Michael's words, love in both directions. That was the true miracle. Not just being saved, but saving others. Not just receiving grace, but extending it. Not just surviving, but living, really living, in a way that honored every person who'd helped them along the way. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Catalina's long recovery, learning to run a foundation, figuring out how to live a normal life after everything that had happened. But tonight, Rosa allowed herself to simply be grateful. For life, for love, for the impossible miracle that had started with tears in a hotel hallway and led to family, purpose, and hope. The true miracle wasn't just that Catalina had survived. It was that all three of them, Rosa, Catalina, and Michael, had learned how to really live. 6 months later, Rosa stood in front of the mirror in her bedroom, adjusting the collar of a dress she'd bought for today. A real dress, not a uniform. Not something worn and faded from years of use, but something new that made her feel like a person who mattered. Behind her reflection, she could see Catalina sitting on her bed, fully dressed and healthier than she'd been in years. Her daughter's cheeks had color now. Her eyes sparkled with life. She'd gained weight, her hair was thick and shiny, and most importantly, her heart was strong. "You look beautiful, Mama," Catalina said. Rosa turned to face her daughter. "Are you sure I should be the one speaking today? You're the one they want to hear from." "They need to hear from you," Catalina insisted. "You're the director of the foundation. You're the one who understands what these families are going through. Michael was right to choose you." Rosa still couldn't quite believe it. 6 months ago, she'd been a hotel cleaner with 3 jobs and no hope. Now she was Rosa Delgado, Director of Family Services for the Eduardo Delgado Foundation. She had an office, a salary that meant she only needed one job, and a purpose that filled her heart in ways she'd never imagined. The foundation had already helped 8 families. 8 children who would have died were now alive, recovering, living. 8 families who'd been crying in metaphorical hallways now had hope. And today was the public launch, a press conference where Michael would officially announce the foundation to the world. "Are you nervous?" Catalina asked, watching her mother fidget with her dress. "Terrified," Rosa admitted. "There will be cameras, reporters, all those people. What if I say something wrong? What if I mess up and embarrass Michael?" "You won't," Catalina said confidently. "You're going to tell our story, and it's going to help people. It's going to give other families hope." There was a knock on the apartment door. Rosa opened it to find Michael standing there, wearing a suit, but looking nervous himself. "Ready?" he asked. "No," Rosa said honestly, "but I'll do it anyway." Michael smiled. "That's the bravest thing anyone can do. Be terrified and do it anyway." They drove to the press conference together, Michael, Rosa, and Catalina. The venue was a hotel conference room downtown, already filled with reporters, cameras, and curious onlookers. Rosa felt her stomach twist with anxiety as they pulled up. "I can't do this," she whispered. "Yes, you can," Michael said firmly. "I'll be right there with you. And remember, you're not doing this for the cameras. You're doing it for the families who need to know that help exists, that they don't have to face this alone." Rosa took a deep breath and nodded. They entered through a back entrance, avoiding the crowd. In a small room behind the stage, Michael's assistant, Marcus, was coordinating final details. He smiled when he saw them. "Everything's ready," Marcus said. "Michael, you'll speak first. Introduce the foundation and its mission. Then Rosa will share your story. Then we'll open for questions. Catalina, you'll be sitting in the front row where your mother can see you. Sound good?" Catalina squeezed her mother's hand. "You've got this, Mama." They took their positions. Michael walked out onto the small stage to thunderous applause. Rosa watched from the wings, her heart pounding. Thank you all for coming," Michael said, his voice filling the room with that same confidence he'd once used on basketball courts. "I'm here today to announce something that matters more to me than any championship I ever won." He paused, letting the words sink in. "6 months ago, I met a woman named Rosa Delgado. She was working the night shift at a hotel, and she was crying because her 17-year-old daughter was dying. Catalina needed a life-saving surgery that cost $340,000. Money Rosa didn't have. Insurance had denied her claim 3 times. She'd worked 3 jobs for 2 years and saved only $4,200. She was out of options, out of time, and out of hope. The room was completely silent. Rosa could see reporters leaning forward, cameras focused intently on Michael. "I had a choice that night," Michael continued. "I could walk past her pain. I could tell myself it wasn't my problem, or I could do what my mother taught me. See people, not positions. See their humanity. See their worth." Michael's voice grew stronger. "I chose to help. I paid for Catalina's surgery. She survived. She's here today, healthy and strong. And that experience changed my life more profoundly than any achievement I've ever accomplished." He paused again, and Rosa saw tears glistening in his eyes. "It changed my life, because Rosa and Catalina didn't just take my help. They gave me something in return. They gave me purpose. They gave me connection. They reminded me that success only matters if it's used to help others. They saved me as much as I saved them." The audience was captivated, hanging on every word. "That's why I'm announcing the Eduardo Delgado Foundation, named after Catalina's father, who promised his daughter she'd have a good life, but died before he could fulfill that promise. This foundation will pay for life-saving surgeries and treatments for children whose families can't afford them. We'll cover experimental procedures, out-of-network specialists, anything that gives a child a chance to live when money is the only thing standing in the way." Applause erupted, but Michael held up a hand. "But here's the most important part. This foundation isn't about me. It's not about my money or my name. It's about families helping families. That's why I've asked Rosa Delgado to be our Director of Family Services. She understands what these families are going through because she lived it. She knows the system, the bureaucracy, and the endless denials and appeals. She knows what it's like to love your child more than life itself and feel powerless to save them." Michael turned toward the wings. "Rosa, will you come out here?" Rosa's legs felt like water, but she forced herself to walk onto the stage. The lights were blinding. The cameras felt invasive. But then she saw Catalina in the front row, smiling encouragingly, and she found her courage. Michael stepped back, giving Rosa the microphone and the spotlight. Rosa looked out at the sea of faces and took a shaky breath. "My name is Rosa Delgado," she began, her accent thick with emotion. "6 months ago, I was nobody. A hotel cleaner, a single mother, a widow with a dying daughter and no way to save her." She paused, gathering her thoughts. "I worked 3 jobs. I slept 4 hours a night. Yet I survived on coffee and determination. But none of it was enough. My daughter needed a surgery that cost more money than I would make in 10 years. Insurance said no. Every grant program said no. Every charity said they'd see what they could do, and then did nothing." Rosa's voice grew stronger. "I was preparing to watch my daughter die. I was preparing to fail at the most important job I'll ever have, keeping my child alive. And then, at 3 o'clock in the morning, in a hotel hallway, I met Michael Jordan." She turned to look at Michael, who was standing to the side, watching her with encouragement. He didn't have to stop. He didn't have to care. He could have walked past me, past my pain, past my daughter's dying heart. But he didn't. He sat down on the floor beside me and asked me about Catalina. He saw us, not as a charity case, not as a publicity opportunity, but as human beings whose lives mattered. Rosa's eyes filled with tears, but she kept talking. "Michael paid for the surgery. He stayed with us through the recovery. He became family. But more than that, he gave me a purpose. He showed me that my pain doesn't have to be wasted, that my experience fighting for Catalina's life can help other families fight for their children." She looked directly at the cameras now, speaking to the mothers and fathers watching who might be in the same desperate situation she'd been in. "If you're out there, if you're watching, if your child needs help and you don't know where to turn, we're here. The Eduardo Delgado Foundation is here. You don't have to cry alone in hallways anymore. You don't have to choose between bankruptcy and your child's life. And you don't have to prepare to say goodbye when there's still a chance to fight." Rosa's voice broke, but she pushed through. "Call us, email us, reach out. We will help you navigate the system. We will fight the insurance companies. We will find the money. We will do everything we possibly can to give your child the same chance Catalina got. Because every child deserves to live. Every parent deserves hope." The room erupted in applause. Rosa stepped back, overwhelmed, and Michael moved forward to take the microphone again. "We're opening a hotline today," Michael announced. "The number will be on the Foundation's website. We have staff ready to take calls, evaluate cases, and start helping families immediately. We've already helped 8 families in the past 6 months while we were setting things up. And our goal is to help 100 families in the first year, 1,000 families in 5 years. We won't stop until no parent has to watch their child die because of money." More applause. Then the questions began. A reporter stood up. "Mr. Jordan, how much of your own money are you putting into this foundation?" "Enough," Michael said simply. "And I'm actively seeking additional donors and corporate sponsors. This isn't about me being a hero. This is about building something sustainable that will help families long after I'm gone." Another reporter. "Ms. Delgado, what qualifies you to run this foundation without a background in nonprofit management?" Rosa felt a flash of insecurity, but Michael answered before she could. "What qualifies her is that she lived through what these families are living through. She knows their pain, their fear, or their desperation. You can teach someone nonprofit management. You can't teach empathy and genuine understanding. Rosa has both." "Can you tell us about Catalina's condition now?" another reporter asked. "How is she doing?" Rosa smiled. She's strong, healthy. Her heart function is better than it's been in years. She starts nursing school next month, her dream. She volunteers at children's hospitals, drawing pictures and telling stories to sick kids. She's living the life her father dreamed for her. And what about the experimental nature of the surgery? Are there long-term concerns? Rosa's smile faltered slightly. She thought about what Catalina had overheard during surgery, about possibly only having 5 to 10 years. But that wasn't public knowledge, and Catalina had specifically asked them not to discuss it. "Oh, all surgeries have risks and uncertainties," Rosa said carefully. "We're grateful for every day Catalina has. We focus on living fully, not on fear." The press conference continued for another 30 minutes. More questions, more answers, more cameras flashing. Finally, Marcus stepped forward to announce it was over. As they left the stage, Rosa felt exhausted but exhilarated. Catalina rushed up and hugged her mother tightly. "You were perfect, Mama. Absolutely perfect. You're going to help so many people." Michael joined them, grinning broadly. "You're a natural." That speech was better than anything I could have written. "I spoke from my heart," Rosa said simply. "That's what made it perfect," Michael replied. Over the next few weeks, the Foundation's hotline was flooded with calls. Desperate parents from across the country reached out, each with their own heartbreaking story. Children with rare diseases, experimental treatments needed, insurance denials piling up. Rosa worked 12-hour days, but this time it didn't feel like survival. It felt like purpose. She talked to parents, helped them gather medical records, connected them with specialists, fought insurance companies with the ferocity of a mother protecting her child. Michael had been right. She was good at this. Really good. Because she understood. She'd been there. She knew exactly what these families were feeling. The Foundation helped its 9th family in the first week after the press conference. Then the 10th. Then the 11th. Within 2 months, they'd helped 20 families. Children who would have died were now alive, fighting, hoping. And every single time a surgery was successful, every time a parent called to say their child was going to make it, Rosa felt a piece of her own pain transform into purpose. One evening, 3 months after the press conference, Rosa came home to find Catalina and Michael in the kitchen, cooking together. They'd become close over the months, more like uncle and niece than anything else. Michael spent at least 3 evenings a week at the apartment, sharing meals, watching movies, just being family. "What's all this?" Rosa asked, setting down her bag. "Celebration dinner," Catalina announced. "Michael told me the Foundation just helped its 50th family today. 50 children who are going to live because of you two." Rosa felt tears spring to her eyes. 50 families, 50 children, 50 futures that would have ended if they'd done nothing. "Not because of us," Rosa said. "Because of Eduardo. Because of his love for you, Catalina. Because of the promise he made. We're just keeping it for him." They ate together that night, arroz con pollo again, because it had become their tradition. As they laughed and talked around the small table, Rosa felt a wave of gratitude so strong it almost hurt. This was her life now. Not survival, but living. Not working 3 jobs just to barely make it, but working one meaningful job that made a difference. Not being alone, but having family. Chosen family that loved her not for what she could do for them, but for who she was. After dinner, as they were cleaning up, Michael's phone rang. He glanced at it, and his expression changed. "It's Dr. Winters," he said, answering quickly. "Hello?" Yes, this is Michael." Rosa and Catalina froze, watching Michael's face as he listened. His expression went from curious to shocked to something Rosa couldn't quite read. Are you sure? Michael asked. That's incredible. Yes, of course. We'll come. Thank you for calling. He hung up and just stood there for a moment, staring at his phone. What is it? Rosa asked, her heart pounding. What did Dr. Winters say? Michael looked up at them, and Rosa saw tears in his eyes. She wants to see Catalina. Tomorrow. She said it's important. Something about her recent scans. Catalina's face went pale. Is it bad? Is the surgery failing? She didn't say, Michael said. Just that she needs to see you in person. That it's urgent. Rosa felt the familiar fear creeping back in, the fear she'd been pushing away for 6 months. The fear that this miracle had an expiration date they'd always known was coming. We'll go tomorrow, Rosa said, trying to keep her voice steady. All 3 of us. Whatever it is, we'll face it together. That night, Rosa couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, listening to Catalina's breathing in the next bed, trying not to imagine all the terrible things Dr. Winters might tell them tomorrow. Was the surgery failing? Was Catalina's heart giving out? Was this the beginning of the end that Catalina had overheard about during surgery? Rosa got up quietly and went to the small altar in the living room. She lit a candle and knelt before the picture of the Virgin Mary, praying with an intensity she hadn't felt since the night before Catalina's surgery. Please, she whispered, please don't take her now. Not when she's just starting to really live. Please, give us more time. She felt a hand on her shoulder and turned to find Michael standing there, also unable to sleep. I can't lose her, Rosa whispered. Not after everything. Not after she survived. I can't. We don't know what Dr. Winters is going to say, Michael said gently. Maybe it's good news. Doctors don't call at night with urgent meetings for good news, Rosa said bitterly. Michael sat down beside her on the floor. Maybe these doctors do. Dr. Winters isn't like other doctors. She cares about Catalina. Maybe she wants to share something hopeful. Rosa wanted to believe him, but 6 months of happiness couldn't erase years of disappointment and loss. She'd learned not to hope too much, because hope hurt when it was taken away. They sat together by the altar, 2 people who'd become family through crisis, waiting for morning and whatever news it would bring. At dawn, Catalina woke to find her mother and Michael asleep on the floor by the altar. She covered them with blankets and made coffee, her own fear carefully hidden behind a brave face. She knew what this might mean. She'd always known her borrowed time would run out eventually. But she'd hoped for more days with her mother, more time to help other kids, more moments of living the life her father had wanted for her. If this was the end, at least she'd lived these past 6 months fully. At least she'd seen her mother smile again. At least she'd brought Michael and Rosa together, creating a friendship that would outlast her physical presence. Mama, she called softly. Michael, wake up. We need to get ready. The drive to Johns Hopkins was silent, or each of them lost in their own fears and prayers. Rosa held Catalina's hand in the back seat, squeezing it every few seconds as if making sure her daughter was still there, still solid, still alive. They arrived at Dr. Winters' office and were immediately shown in. No waiting, no delays, which somehow made Rosa more nervous. Dr. Winters stood when they entered, her face unreadable. She gestured for them to sit, and they did. Rosa, Michael, and Catalina lined up in chairs facing the doctor's desk, like students facing a principal. Thank you for coming so quickly, Dr. Winters began. Just tell us, Rosa said, unable to bear the suspense. Whatever it is, just tell us. Dr. Winters smiled, actually smiled, and Rosa felt her heart skip. I wanted to tell you in person because this is Unusual, Dr. Winters said. Catalina, I've been reviewing your recent scans and test results. Your heart function has not only remained stable, it's continued to improve. Significantly. Catalina blinked. Improve? But I thought. I know what you overheard during surgery, Dr. Winters said gently, about your prognosis, about potentially having limited time. Catalina's eyes widened. You knew? I'm a surgeon. I'm trained to notice when patients are more alert under anesthesia than they should be. I knew you heard me talking to my team about my concerns. Dr. Winters leaned forward. Catalina, I need you to understand something. What I said during surgery was based on your condition at that time, on statistical probabilities, on what usually happens with cases like yours. And now? Michael asked, his voice tight with hope. Now, 6 months post-op. Your heart is doing something we rarely see. The synthetic scaffolding has integrated so well with your tissue that your heart is actually stronger than we dared hope. Your ejection fraction, the measure of how well your heart pumps blood, has improved from 25% before surgery to 55% now. That's nearly normal range. Rosa couldn't breathe. What does that mean? Dr. Winters smiled wider. It means that Catalina's prognosis has changed dramatically. Instead of 5 to 10 years, I'm now cautiously optimistic that with proper care, medication compliance, and regular monitoring, she could have a normal lifespan. Decades, Rosa. Not years. Decades. The room spun. Rosa heard the words, but couldn't process them. Decades. Her daughter could have decades. Catalina started crying. Michael put his head in his hands. Rosa just sat frozen, unable to move, unable to speak, unable to believe. Are you sure? Rosa finally whispered. Medicine is never 100% certain, Dr. Winters said. But yes, I'm sure enough to give you real hope. Catalina's body accepted the repair better than any case I've ever seen. She's what we call a miracle responder. Someone who defies the odds, who heals beyond expectations. She's going to live, Rosa. She's going to have a full life. Rosa stood up abruptly, walked to the window, and sobbed. Not quiet tears, but full-body sobs that shook her entire frame. Michael went to her, putting his arms around her, crying with her. Catalina sat in her chair, tears streaming down her face, looking at Dr. Winters with wonder. I'm going to live, she whispered. Really live. Not just for a few years, but for a lifetime. Yes, Dr. Winters confirmed. You're going to live. You're going to become a nurse. You're going to help countless patients. You're going to have a full, beautiful life. Your father's promise is being kept in ways even he couldn't have imagined. They stayed in Dr. Winters' office for another hour, asking questions, getting details, trying to absorb this impossible news. When they finally left, they walked out of the building in a daze. In the parking lot, the three of them stood together, holding each other, crying and laughing at the same time. Decades, Rosa kept repeating. Decades. You're going to have decades. We're going to have decades together, Catalina corrected. You, me, and Michael. We're family, and we're going to have so much time. Michael pulled back and looked at both of them, his face transformed by joy. Do you understand what this means? Catalina, you're going to help hundreds of kids as a nurse. Rosa, you're going to help hundreds of families through the foundation. The ripple effect of what started in that hotel hallway 6 months ago, it's going to touch thousands of lives. It already has, Rosa said softly. It already has. They drove back to Chicago in a state of euphoria. Plans poured out. Catalina's nursing school, the foundation's expansion, trips they wanted to take together, dreams that suddenly had time to become reality. When they got back to the apartment, Rosa called everyone she knew, her co-workers from the hotel, the nurses who'd cared for Catalina, the families the foundation had helped. She wanted to share this joy, this miracle, this proof that sometimes the impossible becomes possible. That evening, they had an impromptu celebration. Michael ordered enough food for 20 people. Neighbors came over. The small apartment filled with laughter and music and joy. Rosa stood in the middle of her living room, watching Catalina dance, actually dance, with one of the neighbor's children. Watching Michael laugh with genuine happiness as he told stories. Watching her community celebrate this miracle with them. And she thought about that night 6 months ago, crying in a hotel hallway, holding a denial letter, preparing to lose everything. She thought about Michael hearing her tears and choosing to stop, to care, to help. She thought about everything that had happened since, the surgery, the recovery, the foundation, the 50 families helped, the friendship that had become family. Or she thought about Eduardo's promise finally fulfilled, about her daughter living, thriving, preparing for a full lifetime of helping others. And she understood, finally, what the true miracle was. It wasn't just that Catalina survived. It wasn't just that Michael had money to pay for surgery. It wasn't just that Dr. Winters was skilled enough to perform the operation. The true miracle was connection. Human beings choosing to see each other's pain and respond with love. People from completely different worlds becoming family. Tragedy transforming into purpose. Grief becoming a force for healing. The true miracle was that on a random night at 3 in the morning in a hotel hallway, 2 lonely people found each other. And in finding each other, they found themselves. They found meaning. They found family. But they found a reason to keep living, keep fighting, keep believing that love matters more than anything. Michael Jordan could have walked past Rosa that night. He'd walked past 1 million people before. But this time, for reasons neither of them fully understood, he stopped. He saw. He cared. And that simple choice, to see another human being's pain and respond with compassion, changed everything. It saved Catalina's life. It gave Rosa purpose and hope. It gave Michael the connection and meaning he'd been desperately seeking. And it created a foundation that would go on to save hundreds, maybe thousands of other lives. All because one man heard a woman crying and chose not to walk away. That was the miracle. That was what changed everything. Not money or fame or medical skill, though those helped. The real change, the lasting change, came from love, from seeing people, not positions, from choosing connection over isolation, from believing that every person matters, every life has value, every story deserves to be heard. Rosa looked across the room and caught Michael's eye. He raised his glass in a silent toast, and she raised hers back. They understood each other now. They understood that they'd saved each other in equal measure, that Catalina's life was the bridge that connected them, but their friendship was the foundation that would last long after the crisis had passed. "Mama!" Catalina called, gesturing for Rosa to join the dancing. Rosa laughed, a real, joyful sound she was still getting used to making, and joined her daughter. They danced together in the crowded apartment, surrounded by love and light, and the promise of decades to come. And Rosa finally understood what it meant to truly live. Not to survive, not to endure, but to live, with hope and purpose and connection and joy. Michael Jordan saw a hotel cleaner crying, and what he did changed everything. He saw her, he cared, he helped. And in doing so, he reminded the world what it means to be human, what it means to matter, what it means to love. So tell us, where are you watching this from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. We'd love to know how far this story of kindness has reached. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. By subscribing, you're helping us spread more stories of kindness and hope to people who need them. And don't stop here. Click on the video appearing on your screen right now for another incredible story that will remind you why compassion matters. Thank you for watching, and remember, you never know when a simple act of kindness might change everything.